many people here. Thank you all for coming. It's 7:14 p.m., so we will report on our closed session action.
Something I said or did. Thank you.
Move to ratify student expulsion report number 22/23-18-19-20-21-22.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley, to approve the ratifications of student expulsion reports number 22/23-18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. All in favor?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. That is our only action item from closed session. We will now reestablish the quorum. Debbie?
Mr. Messina?
Here.
Dr. Moore?
Present.
Mrs. Storley?
Here.
Mr. Webb?
Present.
Mr. Jensen?
Present.
And student board member.
So we do have a full quorum. Thank you, Debbie. My name is Bob Jensen. I'm the president of the board. I'll be conducting the meeting tonight. Thank you again for all coming. We'll move on to our Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Dr. Pete Getz, principal of Valencia High School, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all stand, please. Dr. Getz, thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda. I'd like to add that we are amending the agenda for tonight's meeting to exclude the two recognitions by the board. We will postpone those recognitions for another time when it's more feasible to have both those championship teams here for recognition. So as of tonight, we'll ask an approval on the agenda with an amendment to delete recognitions A and B.
Move to approve the agenda with the revisions made to what is posted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Webb, seconded by Mrs. Storley to approve the amended agenda as stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. Thank you. All right, communications is the next section of our agenda. And the first part is board member reports. We'll start with Mrs. Storley.
Start with someone else, please, Bob.
Okay. Mr. Webb?
I wanted to welcome everyone here, our district cabinet, folks in the audience, those of you who are watching online. We are now in the season of open houses. Several of our sites have already started their open houses. An exciting time for teachers and staff to display the wonderful things that are going on in classrooms every day. So I just wanted to make sure we recognize that. Tomorrow morning at 5 in the morning, I'm heading down to Long Beach to be a chaperone for the Student Television Network Convention. We have two of our school sites participating, actually three, Placer Rita Junior High School, Castaic High School, and West Ranch High School. Already, several of our West Ranch and Castaic, as I know, are already up for awards for national recognition for podcast and for news programming. There are a number of competitions that they'll be entering, and I will be providing photos and videos to Mrs. Dunn so that we can let you know what's going on. So it's always an exciting time, and I'm just really excited to be a part of that. That's the end of my report, Mr. Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Mrs. Storley, you're ready now?
Thank you. I couldn't get my phone to turn on. Last meeting, some members of the audience spoke of a parent's rights bill. As of right now in this district, you have full review and you can make copies of curricula, books, and other educational materials used by your child's school. You have access to information on teachers, guest lecturers, and outside presenters. You have access to school records, and you can visit the child during school hours. All of these things that are being lobbied for, we already have in this district. So to go on about how we need to have it, we have it. In honor of Women's History Month, I'm going to read a short tribute to my hero. She always wondered why I talked about her in class. She said, "Those girls and boys don't want to hear about me." I had girls that put limits on themselves, or they were echoing limits that other people put on them. I can't do that because I'm a girl. I can't do that because girls don't do that. I would begin. My mother was born in 1914. She became a pilot at 16, a test pilot at 18. She became a hairstylist until World War II came along, and then she decided she would go be a riveter in Long Beach. When she was there, she was asked to pilot planes from Long Beach to Canada, where a real pilot took over a man to fly it to England. She became a single mom because her husband was abusive. She had the courage to protect herself and her son. She started night school while supporting her son and working in a salon. She became an engineer and a rocket scientist. If you will, she helped put a man on the moon. My hero for Women's History Month. Thanks, Mom.
Thank you, Linda. Dr. Moore, would you like to go next?
Back to Mr.
Okay, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, so I'd like to say, start the meeting off, seeing you all here, and I don't think we have to play games with each other. We know why a lot of you are here this evening. I myself want to make the statement that I have no tolerance for racism. I have no well,
Hey, stop that.
I'll say it again. We talk about civility. Let's all practice civility. I have no tolerance for racism. Nobody should be called names or put down for not only the color of their skin, but maybe the music they listen to, their sexual orientation, or what have you. And I know for years, I've been on this board for 13 or 14 years. I've been a member in this community for 20 years. It's always interesting to me that the people who talk about tolerance and love look for something they can find or dig at on me. Those same people that attack me on a regular basis never check a I like when I put positive things down, or what you would perceive to be positive, because you're not interested. Can we be honest with each other here this evening as we speak? The tweet that I retweeted, part of the tweet was taken as that I was putting down teachers or the education system. Well, we do have failures in the education system. We have a lot of successes in the education system. In this district in particular, we have great teachers. We have a lot of teachers that love and care for our kids. They're there after school. They're there early in the morning. They're there at lunchtime. And I had a teacher that used to live next door to me. And I saw her out in the backyard with 5, 6, 7 kids, tutoring them on Saturday afternoons that were kids in her class. So we have a lot of great teachers in here. And I would say, don't suppose, don't look at things from an ideological standpoint when you decide to tag us with something. We're all here for the right reasons, for the same reasons, to make sure that all students have a good and safe and proper education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Thank you, Mr. Messina, for your comments. I also acknowledge that a lot of people in the room are here because of things that have happened in this district in the last several weeks. And all I'm going to say is we have work to do to move forward ahead as a community. And if we want to do that and move forward ahead as a community, we have to work together to do that. It is hard, and it's hard work. It is painful work, but it is work that we have to do. There are issues, and I think we can all acknowledge that there are issues. There is anger. There's hurt, personal hurt. Some of you saw me walk in the room with my eyes red. The hurt is deep and the hurt is real. but I'm ready to start healing from this pain, this trauma. I'm ready to not be exhausted and angry anymore. I'm ready to not be disrespected, to not be belittled. I'm ready for us to care and to act with courage and to have courageous conversations. I've started that tonight. I want us to continue to do that. My board colleagues and I have a responsibility to everyone in this room, to every student in this district, to do better, to hold ourselves to a higher level, to hold ourselves accountable for our actions in everything that we do. We have that responsibility because we're accountable to you, and I don't care who you are in this audience or what district you live in, we're all accountable to you. I also know that I've shared that I have a list of things, and they keep handing me tissue. That I have a list of areas that I want us to work on as a community together. We all live in this community together. And this district has been through a lot. This isn't new history for us. It is history I hope that we continue to grow from and don't repeat. And it's not just the things that have happened in the last 2 weeks. There's all sorts of pieces that my colleagues hurt for things that hurt them that we do in this district to each other when we don't have to. We're raising the future. All I want us to do is think about our actions all the time. Think about how we can work together, how it's our opportunity as a board to put in policies that show that we want to build our community, we want to grow. We have a great district, great schools. I don't have anything that I can take away from the educational opportunities that students get in this district ever. I've had 2 who've gone here and 1 who will. And we can do more to make sure that everyone feels that they have access to those same amazing educational opportunities. My list is in areas of statements that we can make about things that we don't tolerate. We don't tolerate hate of any kind. Race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, none of it is tolerated here, and it cannot be. We have to share that publicly and make sure that everyone knows that, believes that, understands that. We're all together on that as a community. We have policies in place that speak to how we handle hate when it happens. And we need to tighten those up so that our practices can be put in place. I'm sad that this is the issue that is giving us the opportunity to look at things that we've needed to look at a long time. But I'm grateful that I trust this group of board members to make bold decisions, courageous decisions, to help us move to where we want to be. I know that it will take professional development, training, things that folks have asked for, but it will also take community conversations. And so you'll see part of what I'm happy to move forward with is that opportunity for everybody here to talk. You know, the 2 minutes at the podium, that's not a conversation. That's often used as attack modes and times to beat up on each other. That's not a good intent. That is not building community. Community conversations are what I'm hoping that we can really have to sit across the table from each other and really be bold to speak courageously about our experiences, to grow from them together, to better understand each other. I'm saying that from the most sincerest place in my heart and where I want us to go tomorrow. So with that, Mr. Jensen, those are my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Well, I'd like to share a few comments. I've had the opportunity to do a diversified array of things over the last couple of weeks, which has been really neat relative to our district. First of all, about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, the Hart District Honor Band had their performance at the Hart Performing Arts Center. If you haven't had a chance to attend an honor band, they happen once a year. please go. It's outstanding. It's really a neat event. Awards are given besides the playing of music, so that was really exciting for me to be there. About a week ago, well, a little less than a week ago actually, we had a teacher recruitment fair at Rancho Pico Junior High School. I know Mr. Webb was there and Dr. Moore was there also. And I got to tell you, the enthusiasm and the number of high-level, very qualified candidates really impressed me. It went from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I got there in the latter part of it. And not only was there food there, but there were great people, and it was really a nice event. So we've got some great things to look forward to in the hiring and recruiting of teachers. Last night was the Hart High School open house, which I attended despite the rain. It rained the whole time, but there was a great spirit and enthusiasm there. Incoming ninth graders gathered together in the Performing Arts Center at 5:30. And there were probably more people in attendance at the Performing Arts Center in the rain last night than I've seen in a previous open house. So that was really encouraging. Valencia High School state basketball champions. Hart High School state soccer champions. It's probably once in 250 years that you'll be a state champion, or at least even get to a state championship game. So those were two significant events very recently. I'll conclude my remarks before we go over to the student board member. Just a personal statement and a statement from the district that I personally and we as a district, the Hart District, condemn 100% any forms of racism, any type of racism, any shape of racism. We condemn 100%. So with that, we'll turn it over to the student board member. Danny, do you have a report?
I do. I am so sorry. As great as our Hart District is, and as much as I would love to spend hours talking about all that we have accomplished and how proud I am to be a part of Golden Valley and to be a part of the Hart District. Today, I wanted to emphasize and focus my board report addressing some of the harsher realities and wrongdoings within our district, our campus, and our society. I wanted it to be known, and I wanted to highlight this not because I want to focus on the negative, but I feel it's important to acknowledge and address that we as a district are dedicated to healing and helping our community. I wanted to acknowledge that racism, microaggressions, and casual use of inappropriate and degrading slurs are still apparent in today's society and on our campus. And injustices as a whole still occur on a daily basis in communities that we trust our friends, loved ones, and children to grow up and learn in. Again, this is not meant to highlight the negatives or to say that our district is a failure, because I am so proud to be in the Hart District. But at the same time, just as when someone you love messes up and you need to hold them accountable, it's important to recognize that the community we're in has made some mistakes, some inexcusable mistakes, and we must hold them accountable. Our community is hurting right now, and our students are hurting right now. And this is the time where the only way to heal it is to communicate and to understand one another. I wanted to end my report by sharing a quote from Valencia High School's Black Student Union. It was posted on their Instagram, and you are more than welcome. I highly encourage it for you guys to check it out. It says, "Racism has no place in our school or our community, and we will work to support in creating a safe and inclusive environment for all students." This is the one that I really want you to focus on. "Remember that you are all valued, you are all loved, and you all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect." I encourage the conversations, and I'm happy to see that so many people showed up to share their voices and advocate for those that sometimes feel that they don't have one. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, next is our Employee Association leadership. We first have HDTA President John Minkus. John, before that, we have two speakers, and we'll have the speakers first. First is Diane Zimmerman, and second is Glenda.
It's right?
It is, yes.
Thank you, because that was confusing for Glenda and myself. I just have one thing to say, which you'll all be happy to hear. I, once again, urge everyone, teachers, parents, anyone who cares about their children getting the best education possible, to read Standing Up to Goliath by Rebecca Friedrichs. The government needs to get its nose out of the education of your children and on with the business of keeping our country the land of the free and the home of the brave. Please, even no matter who you are in this room, get this book and read it. It can't hurt you to try.
Diane?
Please.
Yeah, talk to the board.
I'm talking, I have so many times, but please get this book and read it if you haven't. It wouldn't hurt any of you, no matter what side of the aisle or whatever you call all of us. You need to read this because it's really based on facts and its history, and it sure does explain a lot of what's going on today. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Glenda.
Bob, sorry, I'm a frog today. Actually, I'm under public comment, so I don't know how it came up with this as far as the unions. That's something else you guys can deal with, but ours is for the public comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will now have Mr. John Minkus, President of HDTA.
Good evening, school board, student board member, President Jensen, Superintendent Kuhlman, and staff. Thank you as usual for having me tonight. And tonight I am here to reaffirm the commitment of HDTA and each of the 1,072 members to provide the best educational opportunities for all Hart District students. We are one Hart. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, next is CSEA Chapter 349, President Janice Dennington. Jordan, you're going to speak in her place?
I am.
Okay.
So, good evening, members of the board, members of cabinet. There we go. Is that picking up now? Members of the board, members of cabinet, good evening. My name is Jordan Mraz. I am the vice president of CSEA Chapter 349, and I'm proud to have the opportunity to come here and speak to you tonight. Our membership in the union is growing, and our membership is energized and enthusiastic. Next week, we're going to be having a barbecue event that we're going to be doing. We're having a barbecue event, and we would actually like to invite all of you board members to come out and meet with our members and just, get to know the people who are passionately serving our students. I'll send you all an email with some of the details there. We'd love to see you. We would also love to see you at our upcoming classified recognition event, which is going to be held next month in April on the 18th over at La Mesa. Our theme is going to be Wizard of Oz. You can dive as far into that theme as you want, whether it's just ruby red slippers or if you want to come in a full Cowardly Lion costume. We would love to have you no matter how you come. We also have, so we're looking forward to that. We are also looking forward to continuing the work that we have with our salary study that we've been working on, as you may be aware. So with our last salary study that we attempted to complete, we only had a turnout of, a response from 17 members. But with our current salary study, we had a response of 298 members. I think that really shows and highlights how important this is to our membership and how much our membership feels committed to this process. Of course, part of that process being that we have updates to our classified job descriptions, And in that process, we recently, in our Personnel Commission meeting, which was held last week, found that we needed to organize an additional committee, which was going to be the Desk Audit Committee. That committee is still being formed. Currently, I'm a member, Janice is a member, and also you may also be familiar with Stephanie Kocher, who is our clinical coordinator for our ERICS therapists. She's also going to be seated on that committee that we're forming. We recently finished our negotiations with the district. We settled on a 10% increase and a 4% one-time payment. And I just want to say thank you to Mr. Ralph Peshek, because he is working very hard right now to get that payment increase applied to our checks for the month of April. And he's also set the really ambitious goal of getting us our retro checks and also our one-time payment also in the month of April. And Ralph, I just wanted to say thank you for doing that for us. I know that there's a lot of resources and a lot of effort that goes into that, and that I just want to make sure you know that we see that you're doing that. We appreciate that. A lot of our membership is continuing to struggle because cost of living has gone up, and our members are counting on that. And we just thank you for the efforts that you're putting in there. Of course, as one round of negotiation ends, our next round must open. Our negotiation team is preparing their sunshine proposal, which they're going to be giving to you for the 23-24 school year soon. And they are looking forward to meeting with the district negotiators and being able to work together to achieve all the goals that we have set forth for our members to improve their lives. And once again, I would just like to say thank you very much for your attention, for your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Jordan. Our last item under communications is our site report for this particular board meeting, which is Golden Valley High School. And Mr. Sal Frias, who's the outstanding principal at Golden Valley High School and a great athlete in his own right. Seriously, Sal was all-state of California in community colleges as an athlete. So does a great job at Golden Valley. Sal, take it away. Looking forward to your remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. You're making me blush, but thank you, President Jensen, Superintendent Coleman, the rest of the board members and the district office staff, including board member Danny Cox. Tonight, I'm presenting for the 15th time the principal's report, and I thought I'd bring a gift. I have some guest speakers tonight to help me do this. So tonight we've been asked to present, oops, I messed it up, yes. We've been asked to present to the strategic plan, communication, and collaboration efforts. But before I always give my reports, I always want to give kudos to my assistant principals who are behind the scenes doing a lot of work, and two of them are able to make it tonight, Yvette Landeros and Jennifer Ambrose. Thank you guys. I can't do without you. And Mr. Brian Necessary and Dr. Gwen Delgado, who just returned from maternity leave today, have also do amazing work for us. But I'm going to turn this over to some outstanding students who are going to help me through, and I think I messed this up, John, help me through this board presentation. I'll let them introduce themselves, tell you what they're involved in, and then give you a great show.
Good evening, board. Oh, sorry. Good evening, board. My name is Sebastian Villa. I'm a sophomore at Golden Valley High School. First of all, I want to say I'm honored to be here tonight with my fellow classmates and my amazing principal, Mr. Fias. Some organizations I'm a part of at Golden Valley High School are Honor Society, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity Committee, School Site Council, Bring Change to Mind, Social Awareness Education, and the JV Tennis Team.
Good evening, board. My name is Ria Patel. I'm a junior here at Golden Valley. I'm president of Asian Student Union, vice president of Red Cross. I'm part of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I'm part of Site Council, NHS, CSF, and I'm varsity on the golf team.
Good evening. My name is Brooke Saavedra, and I am a sophomore at Golden Valley High School. So I'm also the ASB sophomore class president. I am the JV cheer captain, secretary of Circle of Friends and Z Club, and I'm also involved in CSF and NHS along with DEI committee. So to get started, We're going to start with the Golden Valley enrollment. So this year, out of 2,067 students enrolled at Golden Valley High School, the sophomore class is our largest class with 565 students enrolled. That being said, Golden Valley takes great pride in being one of the most diverse schools in our district. Going to our diversity, the Golden Valley holds numerous students with different ethnicities, with Hispanics covering over half of our population at Golden Valley, and white and African American and Filipinos following not far behind. We like to say that Golden Valley is one of the most diverse in the Hart District.
At Golden Valley, we strive to enhance the communication and collaboration. Some of our strategies to complete this include Goal 5.3, engage all families by providing translation support and communicating in multiple languages when possible. Goal 5.4, increase opportunities for two-way communication and collaboration between the district, students, staff, and the community. Goal 5.5, articulate with local elementary school districts and College of the Canyons and other institutes of higher education in critical areas to support students and families, as well as provide programs for effective transitions. For Goal 5.3, where we engage all families by providing translation support and communicating in multiple languages when possible, some tactics we use to complete this goal successfully. We make sure we have a regular use of Connect, Ed, and Blackboard in English and Spanish. We have 601 calls and emails with totaling 94,486 contacts. Above 85% of calls are received, and above 95% of emails are received. These statistics notes that the calls are received and that the emails are successfully delivered. Accompanying that, all spring tours are advertised and accompanied in English and Spanish, and all fundraisers are advertised in English and Spanish.
To highlight Section 5.5, Golden Valley participates in the annual food drive Give a Turkey in conjunction with the Hart School Districts and Sulphur Springs. This year, Give a Turkey gave 300 meals, and pre-pandemic, we served just short of 500 meals. We also collaborate with Sulphur Springs to bring the many families one community resource fair to life. Golden Valley are the hosts this year. Alongside Sulphur Springs again, we also participated in STEM Night pre-pandemic, which we hope to bring back again sometime soon. In addition, our principal, Mr. Frias, works closely with the COC Advisory Committee as a member. GV and all Hart District schools work with COC for the Canyon Promise program and College Now. We also work on the Men of Tomorrow program with College of the Canyons again.
With Goal 5.4, we're trying to increase opportunities for communication and collaboration between the district, students, staff, and the community. Our efforts currently are, we have certificated and classified representatives attending quarterly advisory committee meetings, monthly parent advisory council meetings, monthly site council meetings, quarterly English Learners Advisory Council meetings, monthly staff, department, and leadership meetings, and lastly, monthly Golden Valley Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee meetings. Now this begs the question, what exactly is DEI? And we have a video for you.
That humanity is.
She looks right, I just can't place her.
To provide a collaborative group dedicated to learning, problem solving, and supporting students by giving a voice to the diversity on our campus.
At Golden Valley, we stand in the belief that humanity is at its strongest when people are fairly valued and held in the highest regard.
We are committed to a culture that is accepting.
We are committed to addressing racist, sexist, ableism, and prejudice actions as a fundamental harm to our community and the individuals that make that community.
Our student body and faculty aim to embrace our diversity and make unity a strong characteristic of our school, just as our slogan emphasizes.
We work to develop an environment in which students and faculty have the resources and voice to speak about any social injustice on and off campus.
Golden Valley believes that by educating our school community, we can bring ourselves closer to achieving unity.
Ensure that all students feel safe in our campus communities.
Providing supportive structures to ensure the entire campus is represented and heard.
Making a safe space for student voice that leads to a roadmap for change.
Develop agency and compassion.
So now that you know what DEI is, here are collaboration efforts. So number 1 is to create a diversity celebration calendar. The calendar helps DEI to prepare for what we will be highlighting next. We've chosen all the groups to highlight by what the majority of our school can relate to the most. This calendar is being reviewed through our academic departments now and will be shared with our community at our next PAC meeting on Monday, March 20th.
Another DEI collaboration effort includes including a multicultural day during the ASB Spring Week of Kindness, where we highlight multiple cultures and communities on campus.
And our last goal is to develop monthly PSAs with students and staff from the GV campus that really highlight what DEI is and remind the students how we are celebrating this inclusivity and diversity. One of our PSAs will be shown right now. As you can see, our video was made through collaboration efforts by our television broadcast, ASB, the Growl Center, and DEI. So before we want to say thank you, I just want to ask another representative of DEI, our student member here. Danny, do you have anything to say about DEI?
Hi guys. Okay, so the main thing that I really wanted to highlight within Golden Valley, which is something that I believe it's what makes our school so great, is the fact that our student body is so connected and happy, excited to work with our staff members. I feel the fact that we have such a strong student-adult communication allows us to accomplish a lot more than we would be able to, and allows us to create a stronger campus culture where we really do feel included and we do feel as if we're ready and prepared to address any and all issues that come towards us. The more you communicate and the more you seek to find those compromises and to understand one another, the more you're able to accomplish. And I feel like Golden Valley High School as a whole, as well as our DEI, which is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity club or organization, I feel like we are a prime example of it. And it's just, I love being a part of Golden Valley. So thank you.
So with that being said, thank you for having us tonight.
These guys are way better than me, huh? That concludes. Any questions?
Sal, we have one speaker. I'd like to go to the speaker card right now and then have the speaker come up, Santa Rivera, and then after Santa, Sal, I'd like you to come back up with the students and we'll have some questions for you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I wanted to speak on the presentation. It was a good presentation. I love the fact that people are trying to come together to figure out ways of getting along, including, even though we have differences in opinions and the way that we might do things or in the way that we want to get to the same goal. So I think it's great. I think 5.3 with the translation is good. There obviously seems to be a lot of Spanish-speaking families here. And on 5.5, I thought it was great with the community engagement. High school students are, and we're all part of the community, so it's good that it's not just the high schools that are being involved. There's a bridge being built between colleges and elementary school. I mean, most of the kids, like myself, grow up from elementary all the way to high school and college. So I think that was great. With 5.4, I love the fact that, there's communication and collaboration. What I did feel was missing is parents. One thing that a lot of us have been trying to get through is that parents want to be more involved, and some need more help on how to do that than others. So we need to continue to try and build that platform. When I was a kid, my parents had to sign a permission slip for me to learn about evolution. And now we're talking about 12-year-olds being able to go to health office at school and talk about having medical procedures done or being identified as something and not being told to the parents. I think that that is a big mistake. We need to learn how to bridge that gap because parents are going to be involved, and parents, mama bears, you don't want to mess with them. So you don't mess with the children. Don't do things behind parents' backs. Let's try and figure out how to continue to build that bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Sal, if you and the students could come back up. I just wanted to say before the board makes comments, great presentation, and you students are wonderful, and it's great to have you here. So, board members, what comments, questions do you have? Linda?
Wonderful presentation. I love it when
Webb?
Just to echo what Mrs. Storley said, I like to hear from, I know, I've known Mr. Frias for a very long time, but to hear from you is such, it's meaningful, and thank you for all the work you're doing. Thank you for all of the ways you support each other and help to make it a very welcoming and safe environment for your peers. So thank you.
The students, one last thing, they've spent the last month, we've been working on this. We sat and reviewed it, and they've been practicing. So again, they're busy. You heard what they do. And again, I want to give them thanks too. So thank you guys very much for having us again. Thank you.
Sal, we have a couple more questions, actually. Yeah,
We're going all the way down.
You guys did such a nice job that we want to keep you up here longer. Dr. Moore.
Nice try.
So yes, it was a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Sebastian, Rhea, and Brooke. You did a wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you, Mr. Frias. I know you've been working with them because I think when I was there last week, we missed you, Brooke, because you were at ASB. We missed you at the Z Club meeting. But he was sharing that you guys were preparing and getting ready, and who knew that it would be such a timely presentation with the focus of much of what you shared with communication and collaboration and your DEI work. It was just very timely, and I appreciate the work that you do, the leadership that you bring to the campus, Mr. Frias. My daughters went to Golden Valley, and as you heard me say, I have nothing but good things to say about their educational experience, and I know it takes leadership to make sure that students have that. So I thank you, thank your team. They are amazing, and building that confidence and leadership in our future in these students is absolutely amazing. So thank you again for this great presentation, and thank you, Danny, for contributing always.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Mr. Messina.
All right, this is for the students. You're off the hook, Sal. You guys, in watching the presentation, it seems that you feel safe at that school. You feel very welcome there. Is that correct? If you don't, say so. If you do, great. Okay. And you feel that way for the student body as a whole? They feel safe at the school? They feel welcome and included. If you could say anything that you need more help from the board on for DEI or what have you, what would that be? What kind of help? More help? Or you're working on it and you don't need our help?
From the district board to help our student body, I feel as if the student body on each campus, I can only speak on my behalf at Golden Valley campus, it's important that we, in times like these where we're facing today, it's important that we recognize what's all been said today, that we recognize the good and the bad, and that we let our student body know that they too are part of the progression, that the board is mainly doing the heavy work of this, but the student body are also an important, vital factor to progressing and healing from this situation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Danny, did you have anything else you wanted to add besides your cameo appearance in the video? Well, let me just conclude then. Sal, thank you very much. Sal, I've known you for a long time as well, and you've done such a great job at Golden Valley for many years, and always feel very comfortable knowing you're there, and such a great role model you are to the students. And Sebastian and Rhea and Brooke, thank you. You are all well-spoken, and your preparation showed tonight, and it's a pleasure to have you here representing the district and your school, so thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We're going to move on to the next portion of the agenda, which is public comments. If you wish to address the governing board on a topic within the subject matter of its jurisdiction, please complete the request to address the board form and return it to the secretary to the board prior to the beginning of the item. Comments regarding the consent calendar will be taken during public comments. Please use the microphone and state your name. Although it's optional, no action will be taken on any item not appearing on the agenda, and the board president will limit your comments to 2 minutes. The president may limit public comment time based on the number of persons who wish to speak. If you wish to speak regarding an item that appears on the agenda, you'll be called upon to make your comments at the time when the item is discussed by the board. I'd just like to remind everyone, when you do speak, you're addressing the board, not the audience. So please look to the dais and look to the board, because that's who you're speaking to, not the audience. Second of all, if you have a handout or something you'd like to pass on or distribute to the board, please do not approach the dais. Please put your handout in the wire basket on the table and just leave it there, and it will be distributed to the board at a later time. Thirdly, let's have respect tonight and civility. Understood? Respect and civility. That's the type of a board meeting I like to conduct and I expect to have from everybody. I'm going to call 3 names. The first name will approach the podium first. The second 2 names will stand over by our deputy and Dr. Getz. This is a board meeting where we have a lot of items to discuss and a lot of business to take care of besides public comments. So we have plenty of things to do, and we'd like to have this done orderly and in the fashion in which I've just described. So our first speaker will be Virginia Ryan. Following Virginia will be Nicole Wilson and Matt Funicello. So Nicole and Matt, if you would please go over to the side by the counter here. And I don't see Matt here. Okay. And then I'll call, after Virginia, I'll call a third person to stand next to Matt, and we'll go in that fashion. So Virginia.
Good evening. It is both arrogant and ignorant to think that any one person standing up here tonight can speak for the climate or mood at each and every school in one brushstroke. Those who do are clearly pushing their own personal agenda. I do not know the girls who spoke on that video. I don't know their parents, I don't know their friends or what clubs they're in, But what I do know is sometimes good kids, both good and bad kids, do stupid things. They do not truly understand the consequences of their actions, especially when they have exposure to the internet. Some kids may say, yes, they understand, but they are making that statement with an adolescent and undeveloped mind. Experts agree that a child's brain is not fully developed until the age of 25 years old. If rapists, murderers, pedophiles can be forgiven and given a second chance in life, then we as the adults need to extend the same courtesy to these girls. I do not agree what they said. Whether it's a rap song or not, if it was my child, I would be livid. Trust me, I would be livid. But I think it's clear, and the best option is to use this as a teachable moment for kids and for all adults. This is not a school board issue, this is a family issue, which I can only hope their parents are addressing, but I am not here to raise their children, the school board is not here to raise their children, and you're all not here to raise mine. The fact is that no child, regardless of race, should be using the N-word, the F-word, or any other derogatory language at school, period. It's absolutely not acceptable for that kind of language, cursing of any kind, to be tolerated on school grounds or at any school activity by a child. I do expect the entire school board to come together and represent every single child of every single race and denomination without fail. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Before we hear from Nicole, Kat Walker, if you'd be kind enough to stand next to Mr. Funicello there. Nicole Wilson.
Oh, hello. Excuse me. You guys, this has brought me out of my cave. I don't normally come out to these things. So I'm just going to repeat what I heard. I hate effing N-words. It's a heck of a thing to see on social media, especially when I see it coming from a local high school student. I'm coming here as a former student and resident of Santa Clarita. I graduated Hart in 1992, and I consider myself a proud alumnus. I moved here on Christmas Eve 1979 on a rainy day not unlike today. I had much fear about would Santa Claus even find us. Both my parents are children of segregation who survived domestic terrorism of the apartheid South. Both my parents escaped the violence, but not the trauma. When we moved to Santa Clarita, we considered this house our move-up house, and there was pride and achievement. Our family's thinking was we've earned the right to be here, and we are legally entitled to be here as taxpayers. Who cares what anyone thinks of us? Never mind that when we moved in, local kids threw dog excrement on our house. People would slow down their cars and yell the N-word to both my father and my brother on the streets. Never mind that both my brother and I experienced the soft bigotry of low expectations every day by certain teachers in our schools. I started out my career at Wiley Canyon in kindergarten, where a student asked me, "What are you?" I can only presume that he had never seen a black kid before. In my time growing up in Santa Clarita, I was informed by many that I was not enough, sometimes verbally, sometimes not. Mothers let their children act out and treat me poorly, and shamed my mother because she worked every day. I didn't look like the majority culture. I was asked if I could touch your hair. When it changed colors in the summer, mothers asked me if I dyed my hair. I did not look like the majority culture in this community, let me know that I was not one of them. It takes a toll on your psyche to be subjected to the treatment on a daily basis. I have no children and I have no husband, but I have come to you as a woman of color living in the community of Santa Clarita.
Nicole, if you could wrap up, we're
I
a little
shall.
over 2 minutes.
I will shall, so I'll just wrap it up. This girl needs to be expelled, and I'll tell you why. Because people need to experience consequences. Yes, we have freedom of speech, but that does not mean that we don't have freedom from consequences of our actions. Expel this girl and create a safe space for children of color. Because I didn't have one, and I speak to every person of every child that was a child of color in this room who didn't have people speak for them when they needed to. No one stepped up for me, and I'm speaking for them.
After Kat Walker is Favor.
Matthew said I could go first.
Okay.
All right. I don't know about lady, but okay. So I'm Kat Walker. Our youth look to their leaders to set good examples. How can we tell Santa Clarita students to embody anti-racism and anti-bigotry when one of their board members himself is well known to spew racism, bigotry, and hatred? Joe Messina enjoys posting hateful, ignorant memes. He once posted a meme comparing gay marriage to slavery and the Holocaust. His self-published book claimed gay people are abominations. As recently as 12 days ago, he posted a meme claiming that slavery was not rooted in racism. I would hope that we can agree that any student promoting racism and hatred with their words or their actions must receive disciplinary consequences. Shouldn't our school board members be held to the same basic human decency expectations? Joe Messina, you do not belong on this school board. You should resign. Thank you.
Okay, next is Matt, and after Matt, we have Favor Ike and Promise Thomas. So Matt, please go ahead.
Good evening. First of all, I just want to say we all got fingers, right? We all got fingers. We all like to point them at who we think is the perpetrator in this. The only fingers that we need to be pointing at is the two girls in the video. They were the ones who did something wrong. We all agree it's egregious. We all agree that they need to be punished. I trust the district will do what they need to do to rectify that. I can say I know Mr. Messina personally. I can guarantee you that most of the people in this room don't, and they're formulating opinion based off of third or fourth party information and come to a prejudged and pre-formed opinion on somebody. I know this man, he's not racist. Take that for what it's worth. Dr. Moore, I completely agree with your statement. I appreciate your passion. That needs to be, that can't be overstated enough. So thank you for what you spoke on earlier. But again, we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. I myself have made several of them. As long as we can learn from those mistakes, I think we can all be better humans. We're all separated by the worst kinds of tribalism in this country. It's called politics. We got people on the left. We got people on the right. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all each other's neighbors. I know several people on the left who I vehemently disagree with ideologically, but I'm still friends with them. I can still sit down and have a beer with them if they drink beer. We should all take that example. We should all lead by example. We're all adults here. Every single one of us was taught when we were kids by our parents to be good humans. We need to be good humans to each other, because right now the example that we're setting in this room is not the example that we're teaching our kids. Let's stop hating each other and let's start learning from each other and get to know each other before we come to some foregone conclusion that somebody's evil. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Favor Ike, and then we have Promise Thomas, and then we have Antonia.
Good evening, board. My name is Favor Ike. I am 15 years old, and I am a junior at Valencia High School. I stand before you today to express my profound disappointment and outrage at the racism that has been allowed at this institution. It is unfortunate that African American students in this school have been subjected to a culture of systematic racism, and it's high time that you acknowledge this problem and work towards a solution immediately. As an African American myself, it pains me to see my fellow students being discriminated against on a daily basis. It is unacceptable that we are made to feel like outsiders in our own school and community, and that our voices are silenced when we speak out against injustices we face. We deserve to be treated with dignity and respect like every other student at this school. But this is not just about the students, it is also about the larger community. It is disheartening to see that some members of this community hold deeply ingrained prejudices against my people. And they have no qualms about expressing these prejudices in public. We will not allow this to continue. You need to educate yourselves about the harmful effects of racism and work towards a more inclusive and equitable community. This is about demanding our rights as human beings being respected. We are not asking for anything more than we are entitled to, a safe and welcoming environment in which we can learn and grow.
Thank you, Favor. Promise, you're next, and following Antonia will be Cindy.
Good evening, board. I previously attended the press conference held yesterday by the NAACP, and going into it, I understood that there would be some hostility and pushback, but as a Black person, that is called life. With this in mind, I still had hope that my feelings would be heard, even the slightest, but lo and behold, some attendees felt as though they didn't matter. Hearing that people of this valley truly believe that racism doesn't exist anymore or the NAACP is producing false victims of racially motivated violence is very painful. So I stand here to ask you all, am I a fraud to you? Is my struggle a facade? The mere fact that I, a 17-year-old junior attending Valencia High School, have to stand here and express my disappointment and frustration to the adults who were supposed to protect me is astounding. I'm tired of the racism in the Santa Clarita Valley being enabled. I demand that you see me. I demand that you hear me. I am no longer asking. Asking allows you the opportunity of choosing, and I will not allow myself or my struggle to be ignored anymore. As the Valencia BSU Vice President, it is my duty to speak for my fellow Black students who feel as though they can't themselves. We need to work towards an environment where our Black students feel safe and comfortable on campus and off. We start that process by having conversations that make us uncomfortable, asking questions and rejecting ignorance, and calling things what they are, racism. We can no longer beat around the bush and fail to speak the truth and shine light on the dark reality of Santa Clarita, more specifically, our district. Thank you.
Next up is Antonia, then Cindy, and after Cindy is Duncan Mandel.
Hi everyone, my name is Antonia Essie. I'm 17 years old and I'm a senior at Valencia High School. First, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone here and everyone who has supported Black students through these unfortunate incidents. Yes, racism is real and is very prevalent in the Santa Clarita Valley. We have to do everything in our power to make sure that every Black student feels safe, valued, respected, and heard. And that is why policies must be implemented that protects Black students. You need to educate teachers on Black education and implement anti-bias trainings for all staff, all. You need to revise the curriculum to include Black history and culture in a positive way, and you need to provide teachers with the tools and knowledge to create a more inclusive and equitable environment. As a teenager, there are many things I prioritize in my life. I would like to say I do not prioritize racism. This is not part of my agenda. This is taking away so much of my time and is causing me and my peers emotional distress. Teachers should not be scared to address topics of race in schools, since this is what we face in our daily life. We need a revisement of the whole curriculum being taught in schools. We need to make them more inclusive and mirror real world that we live in. We cannot afford to be racially blinded. You have to see me. You have to see my race. You have to acknowledge my culture. You have to acknowledge my color. This is not rocket science, guys. This is basic respect. I'm ready to heal from this traumatizing moment. Every Black student in this district is ready to heal from this traumatizing moment. This is a lot to take in as teenagers, and we just want to be respected and seen as people. You have to defend us. You have to fight for us. You have to stand up for us. We deserve your support. I'm tired of trading my identity for your culture. I am tired of trading my identity for your culture. You have to see me. I deserve to feel comfortable.
Thank you, Antonia. Next up is Cindy. After Cindy is Duncan Mandel, and then Cheryl Cosenza.
I would like to be on the record that I am asking NAACP to provide true documents that Mr. Messina, in fact, ever made any racial statements. If so, I would like you to provide us with that. Thank you, Mr. Coleman, for addressing the incident regarding the video. While the girls made a poor choice, we should consider the impact of social media on students today. Many students absorb information like a sponge outside the classroom, and we should acknowledge that our brains are still underdeveloped at this age. This does not excuse offensive words. However, if we allow artists to use the N-word in their music and make millions of dollars off of it, why are we punishing our students for singing along? Only allowing people of color to say the N-word is a form of discrimination. So where do we draw the line? Non-Black students are now walking on eggshells because everything is now labeled as racist. We need to find ways to promote unity rather than division. This takes both sides because racist people come in all colors. We need to teach and live by Martin Luther King Jr.'s words. I look to a day when people will be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. We are doing the complete opposite here, and we are not showing a good example to any of the children. To NAACP, instead of focusing on the incident and using these students to further your agenda, let's work together towards peace, unity, and having a conversation to support unity. I would like to understand your goal and hopes moving forward. I'm open to hear it, as I think most here are. Let's show our children that we could work together maturely instead of spending countless time in school board meetings on division. We should be using this time to have a conversation regarding fentanyl, education, and how we can improve moving forward. Let's remember that we are all God's children. Thank you.
After Duncan Mandel is Cheryl Cosenza, and after Cheryl is Cheryl Cox.
Duncan Mandel, I'm the president of the Santa Clarita Atheists and Freethinkers. The incident most of us are here to talk about is without a doubt in my mind an incident of racism. I heard it said that the kids were just singing along to a song, but the thing is, the song they were just singing along to was one with hateful racist lyrics. And even that is their right. But they went a step further and posted it to social media, the public square as it were. I guarantee that they knew what they were doing, they know what racism is, and they chose to participate in it. The truly shocking thing is that not even everyone on our school board seems to know what racism is. Joe Messina has unequivocally stated that American slavery wasn't about racism. He's taken one point, that there were blacks who owned slaves, as proof of this. The logic here is clearly incredibly faulty, and the point is absurd. My question for the board is that if a person responsible for the well-being and education of our children can't tell what racism was during one of the most undeniably racist periods of our history, how can we expect that person to tell what racism is now? Therefore, I also think that Joe Messina should step down from his position on the board, because how can a person be effective in his duties to safeguard all of our children when he can't even tell when harm is being done to them? And while I really appreciate Dr. Moore's desire for us all to work together, I'm just not convinced that all parties involved are honest brokers in that endeavor. Thank you.
Next up is Cheryl Cosenza, and after Cheryl is Cheryl Cox. Is Cheryl Cox here? Okay. And then after Cheryl is Daniel Maldonado.
Students, parents, and the community deserve transparency in regards to what consequences are levied against these students and what action plans are implemented to avoid or ideally eliminate the future hate speech and other aggressive acts. So I want the board to let us know what exactly is going to be happening, what is happening. My granddaughter is Black, and she has a birthday party coming up. She's going to be 4 later this month. And I would extend an invitation to these girls to come to that birthday party and sing their little song to my granddaughter and see what that reaction would be to my granddaughter and her Black father and her Black grandparents. If they think it's okay to sing it to the world, then they can sing it to a little 4-year-old and see how that affects her soul. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheryl Cox, then Daniel Maldonado, and then Nancy.
My name is Cheryl Corriveau. I will be speaking tonight on behalf of my friend and fellow NAACP member, David Hooker. I'm going to be reading an excerpt from a letter that he sent the board today. This letter is in response to the ignorant and racist video several Hart District High School students posted in which they repeatedly said, "I hate N-words." The public nature of posting a video like this to a social media platform seems to forfeit the confidentiality of consequences for the students because it elicits a level of silence that is mentioned by our NAACP president, silence being complicit. Without an equal public reprimand and consequence for these students, there will be a community online that will not receive the restorative justice that is necessary to attempt to amend the situation. Several poor choices from children have become online challenges that only snowball the problem, and they would be responsible not only as student leaders being upperclassmen, but also would be influencers for starting a trend of hate that could cause more problems across the users of the platform and the platform itself. Furthermore, without knowing the disciplinary actions to expect for a situation like this, we have no way of knowing if we as a community need to push for systemic change when it comes to school disciplinary policies or how we are approaching these issues. Ultimately, these students must be held accountable for their actions regardless of how short-sighted and thoughtless they were. In holding them accountable, we should not forget they are students. Students need to learn. As community members, educators, parents, and leaders, we must think deeply about how our response can help them learn and repair the damage, reinforce our values, reduce the likelihood of this happening again, and heal our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Daniel Maldonado, then Nancy, and after Nancy is Lydia McLaughlin.
Hello, my name is Daniel. The recent controversy surrounding Valencia High School students and London Yellow song highlights a larger issue in society. Rather than attacking the students who were exercising their First Amendment rights, we need to focus on the problem with social media and music in general. It is concerning that we can punish people for repeating the extremely vile language created by a rapper, but excuse his action altogether. While the lyrics of London Yellow songs may be disgusting, we must acknowledge that it is written and performed by a black rapper. The song is available on multiple streaming platforms, and it has been streamed for nearly 13 million times on Spotify alone since the release in January 2022. Unfortunately, the response from the Santa Clarita Valley NAACP has been divisive. We cannot tolerate any form of discrimination, and it is important to work together to achieve equality. Instead of feeling division, fear, we need to come together as a community based on a mutual respect and shared values. Racial identity politics only undermine the value of diversity, inclusivity, and equality. To build stronger communications in cities, we must reject the toxic ideology and focus on what unites us. Working together, we can create a more just, equitable, and prosperous future for all. In conclusion, recent events are a reminder that we need to address the issue of vile language in music and social media. Instead of attacking individuals for doing something stupidly, we need to come together as a community to do away with all forms of discrimination from all sides. Thank you.
All right, next is Nancy, then Lydia McLaughlin. After Lydia is Rebecca Hindman.
Good evening. Last year, I stood here for 3 months talking about a trustee who referred to Asians on her Facebook page as chinks and chinklets. No one came and stood by my side. No one came to me and said that was wrong. Trustee Moore, you didn't come to me like you did to those girls and say, I'm sorry that you're hurting. What can we do to make it better? Mr. Coleman, I sent multiple complaints to you. Nothing was done. To the NAACP, your website states, our mission is to improve the status of African Americans and other ethnic minorities on political, educational, social, and economic platforms. But nobody stood here with me. I stood here by myself for 3 months, and after no one did anything to help me, I had to go to outside agencies to intervene so that she would take the words chinks and chinklets off her Facebook page. And not one of you stood with me. You want to talk about racism? You want to talk about hurt? No one stood with me. And I could pull every video and show that I stood here. You guys were here too. You had your own speeches. You want to talk about being disrespected? What? We don't matter? What, because we're chinks? Is that what it is to you guys? Yeah, that's what it is.
Quiet,
We
please.
don't. It has to be about only the
Na-
American, African Americans. Is that what it matters? You want to say
Nancy,
you want to end racism?
Please address the board. Please address
You
the
want to
board.
end racism? No, racism exists because
Quiet,
the
please.
NAACP
Quiet.
can't exist if there's no racism.
Nancy.
So don't you stand there. No, you gave that lady more time. Don't you stand there and say that you're against racism. You didn't do anything when I stood
Nancy,
here.
your time is up, please. Thank you.
Nothing.
Quiet.
No, you did nothing. Don't you stand there and say, oh, you care.
Nancy, please take your seat. Nancy. Nancy. Nancy, please take your seat. Thank you. Please, well, you've been over for a minute, so please take your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, Lydia, hang on 1 second, please. Ladies and gentlemen, may I remind you that if you speak to the board, not the audience. And I, as president, do have the right to terminate public comments. I'm of a mindset to terminate it right now and move on with the rest of the board meeting items. So if we want to misbehave, I know emotions are high, everyone has things they want to say. If we want to conclude with public comments, let's repeat what just happened. But I think we all want to talk, right? So let's take our 2 minutes, let's look at the board, let's keep our emotions down, let's stay calm and be civil to each other. Thank you. So Lydia, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter and Dr. Moore, for returning my email. It's still Women's History Month. Mary White Uppington was one of the founding members of the NAACP, and she was white. Ida B. Wells was a founder as well, and she was black. Both of these women were champions of the injustices of black people for their time. I highly recommend reading about their accomplishments that have been woven into the fabric of our American experience. Here we are over 100 years still dealing with foolishness of ignorance. It's not only the ignorance of the teen girls singing hateful words, it's the ignorance that anyone thinks that they can stop this behavior. There are more outrage about words than schools socially transitioning kids in secret. Being biracial gives me a perspective most people don't have because I've been othered my whole life. I know the pain of not fitting in. It took me years to know the feeling of what people were saying was microaggression. As a gender nonconforming girl, you call a tomboy, I was lucky I grew up in the 70s when there was no gender identity to confuse me. I hope children are listening and watching a mom who is here because she loves her daughter and wants to safeguard children. It's not hateful to want to protect children, to talk about the real facts and the real reality of schools grooming our kids to believe that they can opt out of their sex. Students' true selves are not made authentic by social secret transition behind parents' backs. We lack the understanding in this community among the leaders and the adults that support a gender-affirming model only. I am being kind by telling the truth. Children are listening, and I want them to know that they've been lied to. There's no such thing as a trans child. You're beautiful just the way you are. You were born in the right body, and it's okay to be gay. Every time someone speaks at this podium with an ideologue dogma supporting the ultimate gay conversion called transgenderism, it's not progressive, it's pseudoscience. My lesbian and gay bisexual friends do not fight for an ideology. Trans is not the new gay. Identity and sexual orientation are not the same. I want our community to think about the consequences of irreversible damage a path of social transition leads to. The
Lydia.
sterilization of generation of children is not kind. Our sex
Lydia.
bodies are real whether you like it or not. Words hurt, but
Quiet.
no one is born in
I'm
the wrong
charge.
body.
Lydia, your time's up. Thank you. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I don't need shouting. I'm in charge of the meeting, okay? I'm monitoring the time. Again, I'm close to terminating public comments. Please don't push it any further. Rebecca Heinman, you're up. After Rebecca is Philip Bailey, and after Philip is Glenda.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Hindman. I am a proud Saugus parent. This is not the first time I've spoken about this, nor will it probably be the last. Hate is a learned emotion in this valley filled with 3% stickers, Proud Boys supporters, Confederate flag flying, and leaders who claim they are proud racists. We do not have to question why racism and hateful language is used on our campuses daily. Hate is learned and our children are listening. This is a quote. Love how black pride is okay, brown pride is okay, but if someone even hints at white pride, they're racist at. The hypocrisy is funny to me. Anthony Messina, again, hate is a learned emotion. Another quote. Oh, sorry, I'm going to skip that one. Mr. Messina has been removed from social media platforms for hate speech numerous times. So when you say you aren't, let's be real. Speech may be free, but words and actions have consequences. We need to start educating our students about what hate speech is and what words and terms are harmful to the safety of our students. Our children go to school every day having to ignore racism, bigotry, anti-Semitic hate, and more so that they can stay safe. A quote from Hart District student. I was one of 5 black girls in my AP science class. My teacher felt the constant need to say stereotypical things towards our race and would always emphasize black girls when addressing us. My teacher had even gone as far as saying the N-word. To speak out is a risk in their minds. I commend those students that speak out every day. We need expanded ethnic studies. We need education about what a supportive community is for students, administrators, and faculty. We need to remove groups from our campuses that have national platforms of hate towards specific groups like YAF and Turning Point USA. To close,
Rebecca.
I want to thank all the teachers, leaders, and parents and community members who fight to make change and help our community become a better place. Thank you.
Next up is Philip Bailey. Following Philip is Glenda. After Glenda is Diane.
Good evening. My name is Philip Bailey. I'm a business owner, community member, husband, and father here in Santa Clarita. My purpose here tonight is to broadcast my full and unwavering support to the Black and African American students of not just the Hart District, but the community overall. The recent and now nationally publicized conduct by Valencia High students was disgusting and cast shame on the city we live in, but that is nothing compared to the violence they committed through their actions toward their black classmates. Yesterday, Superintendent Coleman stated in no uncertain terms that this type of behavior is unacceptable within the Hart community. He's right, it's not. Unfortunately, though, the call seems to be coming from inside the house. Those who are supposed to set an example for the student community and provide a safe place for them to learn and grow are actually enabling and encouraging this recent racist behavior. Recent public comments by board member Joe Messina denying that American slavery was based in racism is about as vile as it gets. I am hereby demanding a public apology for board member Messina, along with his resignation. This recent comment, along with other bigotry conducted by him, which is fully available for the public to see on his website and social media, makes it very clear he is a danger and a threat to the community his board seat oversees. You are a scourge, sir, to this body, and your presence only acts to delegitimize it. The great Maya Angelou once said, "When somebody shows you who they are, believe them." We know who you are, Joe, and if you have any care for this district and the community, you will step down so that we can actually begin the real work of healing and righting the wrongs that you have contributed to. Thank you.
Next up is Glenda. Following Glenda is Diane Zimmerman. After Diane is Denise Ballester.
First of all, I'd like to ask why Valerie Bradford and your allies are always trolling the internet. As the president of Santa Clarita Valley NAACP, do you have anything else to do with your time besides constantly looking for dirt on those who disagree, your outlandish racist rhetoric, and when will this stop? This is absolute hatred. If you insist on doing your research, wouldn't your time have been better spent in researching the so-called rap artist who happens to be black and why he would write a song which completely states, "I hate black people"?
Mr. Jensen,
Non-stop.
I'm
Okay?
sorry. Who are their
It
comments
should have
to?
been.
Pardon me?
Who are the comments to, Glenda? I'm sorry.
Direct the comments to the board, please.
It's regarding getting rid of the rap artist with the nastiness, and I would like for them to help out getting rid of this. Anyways, it should be up to the parents of the girls who posted and sang the songs to the video to discipline them. And this NAACP folks are the ones bringing attention to these things, like instead of squelching them or getting them removed. It would be amazing if you seeked out a small number of all the rap videos showing hatred of white, Hispanic, Asians, and others that are being pushed on us for decades. Not many of those even made the news except to be nominated for one award or another. Darkness cannot be driven out by darkness. Only the light can do that, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In my opinion, the hatred being used by certain groups like yours is the darkness Martin Luther King Jr. was speaking of. Yes, at one time there was a recurrence of unjust hatred of many in the black community. The times of the early 60s are over. However, blacks were not the only race who had been mistreated. So were the Caucasians, Hispanics, and many Asians and other communities.
Glenda, can you wrap up, please? You
I will.
have your
I'm
2
done. I'm
minutes.
almost done. Do you see Hispanics or any other groups, including whites, be coddled by the school, city council, or corporations in the same way?
Thank you, Glenda. Diane, you're next. After Diane is Denise, and after Denise is Valerie Bradford.
Could you start me over, please? Would you please start me over?
ahead, start it
I
over,
didn't even
Debbie,
realize
please.
that clock had started. Thank you. We are sick of the NAACP pushing fear of others into black parents and their children. This is unacceptable and a slap in the face to Martin Luther King, who used the word equality, not equity, and believed in God, peace, and love, not hatred. We are all made by God. He did not spew hatred. It is the devil, or whatever title you like to give evil, who has been trying so diligently to take over this country. Threats are not the way to get your point across. Working together with everyone is what needs to be encouraged. Words like race, hate, inclusive, and equity, encouraged by you and others like you are causing fear. I'm talking about those groups I just spoke about. Mr. Coleman, in his response to all of this, has done nothing but stir the flames even further. That makes you all responsible for the damage you have caused to those you claim to be supporting. Again, darkness cannot drive darkness out. Only light can. Follow those words. The world would be a different and wonderful to live in. No one wants to live in fear. The NAACP, BLM, Antifa, and the religious leaders who spout your stuff are all trying to promote racism so as to keep their pockets full at the expense of those you claim to be trying to help. I wonder why things were going better and better for all the cultures until the so-called help groups such as yours came along. The government teachers unions, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and others came along to try to reverse us back to segregation where it was actually disappearing in the majority of communities in most states and was actually being practiced less and less in every state as time went on. Imagine, if you will, the wonderful United States of America that would be getting even more wonderful if you had all not come along to help. Thank you.
Next up is Denise, then Valerie Bradford, and after Valerie Bradford is Jeffrey Malick.
Hello. Good evening, board members, and thank you, Dr. Moore, for attending and supporting the students at yesterday's press conference, and thank you to the NAACP for organizing the conference. I would like to ask the board, I want to know, how do you plan to protect these children from the racist hate crimes that have been going on for many years in this district and swept under the rug when you have Joe Messina on this board? Mr. Messina, what do you bring to the table for today's children? besides divisiveness and support for the racism that has been happening for years. You said you chose not to attend the first public declaration of unity against racist incidents on our campuses because you decided to let them have their day, meaning you chose to not support the young women who were brave enough to speak about the harm they have experienced, which is considered a hate crime, and it is very hurtful to every African American child and other children of color. Last fall, you had no problem sitting in that very seat and giving a speech about the Blue Lives Matter flag and how those kids being called out deserve support and they should be able to share their viewpoints. Those players disobeyed their coach, the entire school board and superintendent, and flew the flag regardless of being told not to, but you supported them. You literally campaigned all over the community encouraging parents to stand up for the divisive image of hate, having no regard for the students who were offended by it. You refuse to support the black kids, yet you refuse to support the black kids in this district who are having hate crimes committed against them continuously. This is not ensuring all students are treated equally and justly. Racism is taught and handed down generationally, and this incident and some of your own son's comments on social media exemplify that fact.
Denise, your time is up. Thank you very much.
I call for you.
Next up is Valerie Bradford. After Valerie is Jeffrey Malick, and after Jeffrey is Tony Maldonado.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Bradford, and while I would like to respond to some of the comments in this room tonight, I'm going to stay on point. Yesterday, the NAACP enacted one of its missions. We began the process of doing everything that we should and can do to improve the status of our African American students in our Hart district. Yesterday, we called out the students. Today, I'm here to call out a board member. The Hart District mission statement for board members includes, in all of our work, we demand fairness, honor, quality, and expect achievement at each person's highest level. The Hart Governance Board standards say board members' responsibilities include act in the best interest of every student in the district, govern responsibly, and hold themselves to the highest standards of ethic conduct. On March 3rd, board member Joe Messina violated all of those when he took to Twitter. He was partisan in his hypocrisy of what he called lefty-run schools and the insinuation that they don't teach all the history of slavery, like you truly want all Black history to be taught. He was racist in his consensus that slavery was not rooted in racism because he just found out that Black people owned slaves. And even though the statement was taken out of context, he readily signed on to calling the history of slavery a lie. It is obvious that board member Joe Messina does not have the best interest of every student at heart, or he would not have openly tweeted his agreement to the racist, divisive, false statement made about African Americans. This partisan leadership by our city officials has got to cease. I also want to call on the district to enact policy to address board members' failures and procedures to address consequences. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Jeffrey Malick. After Jeffrey is Tony Maldonado, and after Tony is Carrie.
Here's your teachable moment. Holding empathy for other racists makes you racist. And this one's from my wife. What also makes you racist is not believing members of the BIPOC community when they share their racial experiences. When you say racism doesn't exist, when you say racism doesn't happen, that in itself is racism. You're not trusting the BIPOC community that their racial experience is believable. You have young students telling their stories, and then you have these white supremacists out here saying they don't see it happening. Well, y'all must be really mad at these students because they accidentally just posted your favorite song to sing. So, and free speech does not include statements intended to instill fear or hate. It wasn't a mainstream song. All these views on this song are because it's so bad. That's the whole point. Okay, white people aren't just out here going and singing these songs. They chose to do that song and post a song that represents their values. They aren't good people that made a mistake. As we can see, their values from previous posts saying they would kill and shoot someone because they are black. Learn from history. Music doesn't create racism, racist people do. Ultimately, we have a board and administration and leaders that have not acted in the past. This isn't new. It's now just reached a peak and a tipping point, and you're at an uh-oh moment. Board members saying great promises need change. And by the way, that doesn't mean assigning all the BIPOC students to lead a new diversity group. They aren't your pawns to try to show progress. But the reality is that there's one board member specifically here that fuels and leads the thoughts of racists in this community. How can you get anything done with his values impeding change? I'm formally calling on Joe Messina to resign from his position on the board. He has proven through his social media posts, not third party, his own, that he is homophobic, transphobic, and a clear racist, which is not opinion, that's the feelings of the BIPOC community when they read Joe Messina's post.
Mr. Malik, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Tony Maldonado, followed by Carrie. After Carrie is Andrew Terrence Hartage.
Good evening. First of all, on both sides, can we stop with the selective outrage, to be quite honest? Dr. Moore and the rest of the board of trustees for the district, along with all the audience members, where was your outrage when London Yellow came out with these lyrics? Where was your outrage when this reached 13 million streams on Spotify, 12 million on Apple Music, and on Shazam, and all the other outlets? I'm a music industry executive. None of you here have the guts to actually fight the music industry, do you? Left and right, and this and that. We accept that. It makes money. Where is your outrage? Yes, what the students said was outrageous and disgusting. I'm a person of color, and if you think I accept this is beyond belief. However, don't give me your selective outrage. Don't do that. Just because a couple of white students did this is no excuse for why we accept this to occur. And I'm speaking to you, Dr. Moore, directly, because you represent basically on this panel the black community. And as such, you should be consulting with myself and others to make sure that lyrics like these don't exist. 53 songs on this man's album are the most disgusting things I've ever seen. Homophobic, racist, on all sides. So let's stop with this selective outrage on all sides, to be quite honest. Now, regarding the tweet that Mr. Messina retweeted, and I will take an extra 20 seconds on this. Guess what? That was a tweet written by a Republican conservative named Errol Weber, who ran for Congress 3 times. A black man, black Jamaican American. But yet, that's being called racist. Let's be honest.
Tony, you need to wrap it up or you're over time.
I will.
Please.
Again, 10 seconds.
Please.
Let's please keep this in context. And let's stop looking in just at a few people. Let's look within and heal this. We can do this. Both sides are responsible for this. Both. None of us are innocent in this regard. So let's start now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have Carrie, then Andrew. After Andrew, Sandra Rivera. Quiet, please. Quiet.
Back when I was growing up in the 90s, I was not allowed to listen to rap music with explicit, violent, sexual, or cursing lyrics. I was raised under Christian moral values and standards. My family raised me with the belief and policies of MLK rather than a more violent and radical mindset such as Malcolm X. Our ancestors fought various battles of war for our country and the right to coexist under the American laws, justice system, and the Constitution. The laws in the 50s and 60s have been overturned with new laws created to ensure all men are treated equally and given equal opportunity here in America. So what have we done with our time since then? Well, some well-known entrepreneurs have become exceedingly rich off America's hope and dream advantages through creating a culture of rap music that stands on its own industry, demoralizing each other, degrading women, racially dividing one another through bragging how much time they've spent in jail, raping women, drugging women, beating women, killing, and I'll say it, niggas with a Z, selling narcotics to minors, referring to our women as bitches and hoes? Are you kidding me? And the only time we draw up a narrative to defend ourselves after this music has been created by our own black people is when a white person sings lyrics we created. What a double standard. How many death threats and harassment did these girls singing our lyrics have to endure simply by a free-to-hate speech message written lyrically? It seems convenient and opportunistic of NAACP to do so. What about the protection of the students' welfare and well-being? Why not own up to the fact we as black representatives, influence, have completely destroyed the meaning of healthy community upbringing, unity through rap music?
Carrie, your time is up. Thank you. All right, Andrew, you're next, followed by Santa Rivera, and after Santa Rivera is... Corey? Hey. Is Corey here? Corey. Okay, Corey, you're up after Mrs. Rivera. Andrew, please go ahead.
Thank you for hearing from me, Board. My name is Andrew Terrence Harge. You know, I heard a couple people try to quote Dr. King earlier, and I really just want to correct that quote. What Dr. King said was, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." I don't expect to change people's minds and hearts in these measly 2 minutes that I have that I'm appreciative of you all listening to. But I do just want to share my experience for what it's worth. My wife and I, we met in college. I come from the son of lawyers. Education has always been important to us. We moved down here from the Antelope Valley specifically for educational purposes. Our two sons right now attend Saugus High School, and my daughter, who now attends Sacramento State, she attended during the Saugus shooting, and my sons attend now, and they hear the N-word on a daily basis. It was interesting hearing in regards to what's been going on at Golden Valley, because we did consider as a family sending our children over there because we did understand the culture was better, but we basically just kind of embraced the fact that our kids had to be survivors, and we've taught them how to survive. But part of me, as disturbing as this situation is, I realize the culture needs to change. I'm just going to plead with you in these last 25 seconds that I have to really consider implementing the things that you've discussed at all the campuses, because lots of kids have been affected. And I had to wonder, did I do the right thing to bring my kids to this community? And so I hope that we, as a community, can pull together and embrace the things that Dr. Moore mentioned in terms of love and coming together and bringing about true change. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Santa Rivera, then Corey,
So,
and then Dr. Akash.
I appreciate what the gentleman said before, which goes to what I've been highlighting every time that I come here, parent involvement. It starts at home. We teach our children, treat others as you want to be treated. We treat our children, no one else can make you a victim. We need to continue to remember that it starts at home. So it's not just about what everybody else wants to think. You need to start this at home. Parents need to be more involved, and I think the schools need to do more to continue to do that. Joe, I appreciate you way more because you're taking a lot of crap. And I think that what happens is when Truth cannot hide in the dark. Evil cannot hide in the dark. And evil and lies and negativity gets upset when the light shines on it. So you keep doing what you're doing, Joe. As far as going back to speaking to the parents that are listening, pay attention to what's happening with your children. Be a little bit more involved. Talk to them some more. Find out what they're learning in school. If you can, go visit them. Apparently you guys are saying it's more open. I still feel like I'm visiting somebody in jail, having to wait outside, have my ID checked and approved to go through. Maybe we can do something a little bit different about that, because the pandemic is over, the emergency has been lifted. Para los padres ahí que tienen los hijos en escuela, tienen que poner más atención en lo que está pasando. Pónganse a leer los libros que les están poniendo a los niños. Pónganse a preguntarles más lo que está pasando en la escuela. Pregúntalos a ellos, ¿qué es lo que está pasando? ¿Cómo se sienten? Habla con sus hijos, porque lo que está pasando es nos quieren alejar de los hijos. Quieren a los padres que no tengan relación con los hijos, y eso no está bueno. Whatever it is, there's a divisiveness from parents and children. And instead of continuing to wedge that relationship, we need to bring it together. Thank you.
All right, next up, Corey, hang on just a second. After Corey is Dr. Akash. After Dr. Akash, we're going to go with Peggy. After Dr. Akash, it's Corey, Dr. Akash, and then you're third. Corey, please go ahead. Thank you.
What I see here is a lot of parents here, a lot of intelligent people here that some are really getting it right and understanding that this problem has been going on for a very, very long time. And so what I ask of the board is, what are the policies you guys are going to implement to try and make this better? It does start at home. It does start with the parents. But what I'm seeing is a lot of the parents, there's some parents here right now that don't get it. And so how do we drive home the message so that we can make sure that these kids understand that these are incidents that happen all the time. For instance, my son went to Golden Valley. South Frias knows me very, very well. He's in a drama class, right? Another white student gets up, goes to another black student and says, "This is my slave." The whole class starts laughing at him, right? So these are incidents that go on all the time that don't make it to this level where we're here and we're able to talk about it. So that's what I want to know is, what can we do with the teachers involved? And the teacher, actually, who was there in the drama class, did absolutely nothing about it. So my son tells me about it. So I'm like, I need to know. I need to go down there. And I spoke to the school board. I spoke to the vice president. I spoke to South Frias himself. I even tried to get the teacher in. He would not make that happen for me. I asked him, can I speak to their parents? Can we do a parent conference, parent to parent, where we can talk about this to these kids so we can fix these problems? But nobody wants to do that. And so why does it take all of this for us to get any type of traction, so that way these kids can go to school and be safe and not be harassed and not have racism going on in the schools here? So I would like you guys to really pay attention to what we're saying and take the notes and really implement something that we can do, and the parents, and get the parents involved, because that's the problem. The parents aren't involved. They don't know what their kids are doing. I don't know what my kids are doing on the internet, but then when they put it on the internet and it reaches this level, nobody wants to do anything about it. We just get the board and you just put a comment up and saying we don't accept this type of tolerance, but what are you doing about it is what I want to know. So we need action.
Your time's up. Thank you very much. Dr. Akash. Then we have Peggy. After Peggy is Justin Charles.
Good evening, everybody. I'll like to start by saying that, you know what, irrespective of what we say, we all are here and we all are proud American citizens. Now, respected board members and all the community members on both sides of the aisle, I am not here to defend the girls. Absolutely not. I think I saw the video and I don't know much about them, but I think that what they did was an extremely stupid act. They were absolutely wrong. And, there is, I'm not here to defend them. What I'm here to say is that, we all have children, at least most of us do. And kids make mistakes. And here we are, we have two basic choices. Our one choice is that we can punish them in such a manner that it scars them for the rest of their lives. And that can evoke very divisive feeling in them, and they might not learn the lesson, they might just become more bitter. The second option is that we take it as a learning opportunity. We take it as an opportunity where, you know, the kids learn, and not only the kids, the parents learn, the teachers learn, and our community also learns, so that this thing does not happen again. I think most of us basically are here, and in our own way, through our own prism, we are trying so that this thing does not happen again. Is that not right? And again, we might have our own differences, but I think the way forward, in my opinion, as a psychiatrist also, is that we educate and we implement the policies so that, you know, this thing doesn't happen again. But at the same time, keeping in mind that, you know, at the end of the day, these are kids. And yes, they made an extremely bad mistake, but it was a mistake. And tell me, please stand up if you guys have never made a mistake in your life.
No, we're not going that route. Just continue on with your...
Yes. So I'll ask the board members if you guys have never made a mistake. So let's keep it that way. So, you know, again, as Dr. Moore mentioned, and I like that, you know, that we all live in this community and we all are in this together. And this is a time for us to not show hatred, but show compassion towards each other so that we can resolve this issue and not just, you know, finger pointing at each other. I'd like to use my last few seconds to say that about Mr. Messina. I am not aware of the tweet he made. I'm not very active in tweets. I think I made like 6 tweets in my whole life. And but what I know of Mr. Messina, I have met him a few times. In fact, we had breakfast one day, and you know, I've learned a few things, and we have talked. And what
Dr.
I have,
Akash, your time is up, please.
5 more seconds, please.
Please, we're done. Please sit down. Thank you.
I respect that.
Thank you.
I personally believe that he has best interest of kids in his
Please,
mind.
sir. Thank you. Next is Peggy. After Peggy is Justin Charles, and after Justin Charles is Pastor Les Robinson.
Okay, I'll wait till there's quiet. All right, thank you very much, board. Mr. Coleman, Mr. Jensen, everybody on the board, thank you very much for this opportunity to come to speak to you and to the community. Mr. Maldonado spoke a little bit earlier about context, and I would just like to refer back to one of the earlier speakers who mentioned that one of our board members had posted something that was offensive to her. It was 2 words that were slurs against the Chinese community. And I would like to just address the context of that. And I hope that Ms. Chin would understand this context. I read those 2 words in the post that was on Facebook, and I realized and recognized the purpose behind them. They were written from an historical perspective. They were written about a time in which I grew up, when my community and my dad oftentimes used that word. It was not right, it was vulgar, it was hurtful, and it was derogatory, all of the things that Ms. Chin said that it was. However, our board member wasn't writing them to intimidate, to hurt, to denigrate. She was writing them to inform us that times have changed in some respects. These words are not commonplace in our vernacular today. And that is because people heard and understood the pain. And I am hoping that the folks in our audience can bring this up to today's world, where offensive words that have been around for centuries are still commonplace, still hurtful, and still denigrating. So that's number 1 on my list. Number 2, which I didn't think I was going to get to, but I am a co-founder of PFLAG.
Your time is up, Peggy. Thank you very much.
Too bad. I'd just like to invite those who have
Thank you.
spoken to come to a PFLAG meeting and meet some transgender
Peggy,
families.
thank you. Yeah. Justin, hang on a second. We,
No, I'm leaving. I am going on record as saying there has been such deplorable behavior. You can't keep saying, I'm going to stop it, I'm going to stop it, and then not stop it. I am very upset. I am seeing the dark side of human behavior. I don't want my children to see this, and I am leaving.
Justin, if you could please hang on a second. Barbara, you submitted a speaker card. You did not indicate what you're speaking on. Is this public comments right now, or is this? Okay, so we'll have Justin, and then Barbara, and then Les, you'll be the last one, and that will conclude our public comments.
Okay. Hello, my name is Justin Charles. I didn't plan on speaking tonight. I have full faith in the board and the administrators at Valencia to handle the problem that a lot of the speakers tonight have talked about. So I just didn't see a need for it. However, we had a speaker come up and talk about a student organization, which is Turning Point USA. I'm the high school field representative for Turning Point USA. I'm gay, I'm black, and I'm also an immigrant, if that matters to anybody. I'm not the only gay person who works at Turning Point, but I work with the high school students who are here at this campus. And this is a campus at Saugus that has had a YAF chapter previously, and the same speaker who came and addressed the issue bullied these students off of campus. You allowed the harassment of these students. One of the students left campus because he felt unsafe, or he felt like it was no longer a viable education route for him. And I don't think that this should be allowed to continue. This board, this person ran for this board, and then not only did she run for this board, I'm speaking to the board.
Please be quiet.
I'm speaking
Justin,
to the
please
board.
speak to the board.
I'm speaking to the board
Continue to
about
speak,
somebody
please.
who represents this district as she sits on the PTA board. She continues to harass these students. She continues to put out lies about how these students are racist and, all the other things that she puts out there. And I don't think it should be allowed to continue unaddressed. I think that these students need to feel supported by this district, and I hope that this district continues to allow them to form their clubs and organize and, have free speech. Just do whatever they want to do. Their club addresses issues of free speech, the Constitution. It's not a racist organization. And that's all my comments really are about today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Barbara.
Good evening to the board. I wasn't going to speak tonight because I'm not feeling particularly well, but I thought this was a moment that was too important for me to let how I'm feeling, to not address the board. If someone thinks that racism doesn't exist in Santa Clarita, you're fooling yourselves. Regardless if it was a song, who wrote it, who invented the word? We didn't. Who invented that word? It's it's the most powerful word that evokes the most powerful feelings in the English language. And it's not a nice word. We have 4 beautiful, intelligent young women come up here and speak, and to think that there are people in this audience that didn't have an ounce of compassion to what they endure every single day. But like I told them, keep moving forward. That's your win. But they have to endure this every single day. It's ridiculous. And to have Mr. Messina continue to do what he does and to keep this and make this pervasive like he thinks it's okay. This is not the first incident. You had one in 2016, almost the same exact thing. If there was a consequence, it didn't deter them from doing it again. You had a teacher who reported racism in 2018 who lost her job about a young man from a very good family harassing black students in the class. Nothing was done. So for you all to sit here and act like this is brand new, it's not. It's about as new as water. Water's not new, and neither is this. We need to be better. We need to do better. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's a conversation that definitely needs to be had. I'm willing to start the conversation. Who wants to talk with me? I'm here for you. But understand that this is not new. there has to be a consequence. As far as you trying to keep their privacy, they gave that up when they made that video. So it's not a privacy issue. So I want to say thank you for letting me talk. Thank you, Dr. Moore, for all you do. And I am a member of the NAACP, and I support everything that we do in this valley. Thank you.
Okay, folks, I had previously, Mr. Robinson, hang on, I previously said we're not taking any more speaker cards, and one was submitted. So I'm going to make, please, I'll get to you in just a second. I'm going to make one exception. We'll have one more speaker, even though it was submitted after the fact. And then it's Mr. Robinson, and then that's it. Okay, so don't bring any more up. We have other business to move on to. So, Di Thompson, would you please?
Thank you, Board of Directors for the William S. Hart District. I just wanted to say I was at the press conference yesterday, and I did bring up an issue that my daughter experienced at Valencia High School. She is now a sophomore in college, but she, knows that this is something that happens to students on a day in, day out basis. They hear the word. It's, I hate to hear this excuse about rap music, and that's the culprit. It is not the culprit. This is, at times, there is an appropriate double standard. When you have a word that is weaponized against you, sometimes you use that word in order to protect yourself, okay? So this is why implicit bias training is needed in the schools and in the district with the administrators, with the staff, and the students. History is repeating itself. This is not new, like Barbara said. It is continuing to happen. It happens all the time. It gets reported, and it usually doesn't get to this level at a school board. So what we need to make sure happens is that when parents do come in to the principal's office, like I did, that we're not just given excuses. Oh, well, we hear it in this, they say it in the songs. That is not an excuse. You need to open it up, talk to the students. There needs to be consequences. There needs to be accountability starting today. We don't need to keep coming back here month after month, year after year to these meetings to address the same issue. If we want to come together, like we're all saying, we need to take steps to resolve it. And it shouldn't be that hard to do. It's not rocket science, okay? These are children we're talking about. They have futures. We don't need to continue traumatizing them every day.
Ms. Thompson, your time is up. Thank you so much for your remarks. Okay, Pastor Robinson, thank you for being patient. You're up.
Good evening, Board. My name is Pastor Les Robinson. I am proud to say I'm the great-great-great-grandson of Daniel Blue, who is the black man who is responsible for there being no slavery in California. My family has been about peace and equity and love, and we're all children of God. We're created in His image and His likeness, and we should respect each other that way, whether we agree or whether we disagree. I'm not here for any agenda but love and trying to reach a peaceful resolution. I will say that racism does exist in Santa Cruz. It exists in the world. My daughter was in school here 20 years ago, and she experienced racism on a daily basis. I was a young pastor here, was new to the community. I didn't know how to handle it. I just moved from that school to a Christian school, and there was racism there too. So racism is amongst us. It's out there. It happens. If you don't know, it happens. But no one should use the N-word. Black shouldn't use it, white shouldn't use it, Hispanics, no one. It's a vulgar word. It's disrespectful to the human race, period. But my recommendation, if you really want to get to a solution, is that we should have some classes. We should have some education, some training, not only for the staff, but for the children and for the parents. Our community needs training and sensitivity concerning racial issues. I've been a part for the last year of some special talks they call table talks at the church in Monrovia, California. Pastor Albert Tate has these table talks where they educate people on racial sensitivity. Everyone gets to speak, everyone gets to listen, and we confront issues on a peaceful in peaceful manners. We confront issues with respect, trying to come up with solutions, trying to learn how to speak to each other and respect each other.
Pastor, if you could wrap it up, please.
That's one of the recommendations that I would suggest. Is there would be training, there would be education. If you would need help, I'd be happy to help you. I'd be happy to turn you on to people who would help this process take place. I am right now very active in racial reconciliation, and that's what we need. Our whole community needs it. We need to look at each other, and we need to look at the problem and find some real solutions, not attack each other. We've all made mistakes. We've all said things that we shouldn't say. We've all done things that we shouldn't do. But there's some better ways and some better solutions. And one is to start out speaking to each other with respect, not working from a position of anger, but working from a position of love.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on now with our board meeting. That concludes public comments. Our next item is information items. We're going to have a strategic plan update on focus area number 4, financial and human resources. Mr. Kuhlman.
Thank you. Yes, I'll turn this directly over to Mr. Ralph Peshek and Dr. Colin Nilsson.
No, we want to just keep moving. We want to keep moving.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. President Jensen, tonight Dr. Nielsen, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and I will be presenting on Focus Area 4, Financial and Human Resources. Focus Area 4, Financial and Human Resources, focuses on how these critical areas of the district directly support our schools, staff, and community in supporting the district's fundamental purpose to ensure every student is opportunity ready when they graduate from the Hart District. Shockingly, I have the pleasure to speak on Area 4.1, Transparent Allocation of Resources. In addition to the 4 financial reports that are presented to the board for review by the public and board, we have expanded opportunities for members of the public to participate in the budget planning and review process. In addition, Ms. Debbie Dunn implemented one of the first changes in this area. You may have noticed that all board agenda items now must tie the item's purpose back to a focus area on the strategic plan. This changed process supports taking a strategic approach when staff are considering which initiatives to pursue and fund. To continue our multi-year goal of fiscal transparency, the district has also established a budget advisory committee, created a new fiscal resource page on the district website, and most recently, we began translating as possible our financial presentations and reports for posting to the district website. You can easily access the links to the business through the business department via the district's website, and I will, as I just demonstrated, the new fiscal resources page also has the ability to submit cost saving and revenue generating ideas that you may have directly to us. Area 4.2, strengthening the district's fiscal health. The district has maintained a conservative approach to expenditures over years. That has served us well as other districts have had their budgets come back either qualified or negative, meaning they, in 1 or 2 of their years, they're projecting they can't pay their bills. That fiscal responsibility, coupled with our amazing certificated and classified staff, have supported nationally recognized programs in our schools. One of the critical areas of focus in this area is increasing revenue. Under the leadership of Aaron Velick, our Director of Student Services, a working group is currently focused on student attendance and is diligent working to identify barriers to attendance and review our current operational procedures to streamline them both for students, parents, and staff. The goal in mind is more than fiscal. Chronic student absence reduces even the best teachers' ability to provide learning opportunities. And students who attend regularly have been shown to achieve at higher levels than students who do not have regular attendance. We want every student to be opportunity ready when they graduate from the Hart District. Another long-term project we are engaging in is the exploration of workforce housing. Our district facilities director, Mike Otovka, and I have recently attended a number of educational sessions. Dr. Nielsen and I have met with the city of Santa Clarita to learn from their experiences in exploring workforce staff housing as they weighed their options as a city. And we'll be visiting California school districts this spring and summer to see how they have implemented similar programs. We are still seeking to understand the possibilities and challenges of such an undertaking, but it is clear that it will be a multi-year process. All of the information that we've been able to gather so far indicates 5 years at a minimum is not an unreasonable timeline for the district to explore all the options available. We'd like to move faster, but we have to do it in a prudent way that is fiscally responsible for the district. This initiative ties directly into our long-term ability to generate new revenues and staff retention efforts Dr. Nielsen will now review with you.
Thank you, Mr. Peshek. Initiative 4.3 addresses the need to hire our classified staff in an efficient and timely manner. Last spring, our community weighed in on this issue, and we have appropriately incorporated this into our strategic plan. The Hart District, as you know, is a merit district, and this is a very important partnership for us. We maintain an excellent rapport with the Classified Personnel Commission and the Classified Personnel Director, Mr. John Anthony Maraki, whom I would like to introduce to discuss the progress we have made in this area.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for having me here tonight. So just to touch on a couple of the things that we've been doing, as you can see by the slide, we're trying to streamline the hiring process and fill classified vacancies as quickly as possible. One of the ways that we've done this is implementing, and you might remember from last year with my budget request, the on-demand testing system that we implemented. So we've had that now implemented over this past fall and up till now. And so that has really helped us to expedite our testing process, to create more specific technology, simulation-based, assessment-driven, KSA-oriented pre-employment tests. And it's also allowed us to streamline the testing process, whereas before we would have to schedule a test, have everyone show up, proctor it, and break it out over multiple sessions, particularly when we had large candidate pools. Now with on-demand testing, we're able to test as we go, to schedule semi-proctored or situations for testing to where people can take it at their own computer, or we can arrange computers for them. So it's just helped us to reduce the amount of time and steps that we previously were working with within the restrictions of the merit code. We're also expanding our job posting locations. A couple different ways that we've done this are doing both physical locations, such as libraries, community centers, and also expanding the number of job boards that we've been applying to and posting our jobs on, as well as trying to partner more with our local organizations. So for instance, we've been participating with the COC Job Fair, and we'll continue to participate in that in the future, as we also try to develop more stronger relationships with them to develop some career pathways and such. And also last semester, I was able to visit all the sites to kind of get an idea of how things are going as far as the testing and such. And that'll be another outreach that we're doing to also build into the strategic plan of improving that community and communication, particularly within the district. For the next slide, you can see we have had actually some increases in percentages. So the actual numbers here for the number of applications we received from March 1st, 2021 to March 1st, 2022, we received roughly 3,000. As of March 1st, 2022 to 23, we've received over 3,700 applications. So we've had a 700 increase, that 22% roughly. For the number of candidates tested, we went from roughly about 1,200 candidates tested in the 21-22 period to 22-23 to now implementing the new on-demand testing. We've tested over 1,700, so we've increased that by 32%. So we're getting more candidates, we're getting more applications, and we're screening them faster. And we've also removed some of the assessment pieces that really aren't necessary and do bog down the system a bit with the number of appeals and the reporting that we have to do. So that's helped us bring down the overall timeline from 16, 18 weeks to an eligibility list to anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks for an eligibility list based on the number of assessments that we have to have based on the job classification. And we'll continue to add to our job tests and pre-employment exams as we develop those in-house to be able to expedite the testing with more semi-proctored or on-demand, unproctored testing options. Any other questions? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maraki. Initiative 4.4 addresses a crucial area for us, our ability to attract and retain qualified and diverse staff members. The Hart District has long been an exemplary and award-winning district comprised of multiple distinguished and gold ribbon schools. And the reason for that excellence is because of the hardworking staff at those sites and throughout the district. It is in this very interesting and challenging time in terms of workforce, we need to take the appropriate steps to make sure that we are not only retaining our excellent staff members, but we are also recruiting excellent new team members to our district. We have taken a number of steps in different areas to do just that. In the past 3 years, we have provided 17% in on-schedule salary increases, 7% in one-time bonus funds for all employees as well. We have resurrected the SCV Teacher Recruitment Fair, which took place just this past Saturday, as you heard earlier, at Rancho Pico Junior High School. With the help of our directors, principals, and staff, we were able to meet and interview over 120 teaching candidates. Additionally, Mr. Crawford, who I also would like to recognize and thank for being here tonight, Mr. Maraki and I have attended numerous other recruitment fairs, both in person and virtually, during the first semester. We have also partnered with InfoSoft Circa, and they are posting our classified and certificated job openings on more than 600 job boards targeting veterans, community organizations, and diversity organizations. Additionally, we have access to a database of more than 1 million resumes that can be sorted by qualifications, experience, and geographic location. We've also worked with our unions to create an MOU to offer a $500 referral bonus for any classified or certificated employee who successfully refers a candidate for an instructional assistant position within our district. In fact, just earlier this week, or maybe late last week, La Mesa Junior High School hired 7 instructional assistants.
Very good.
The Hart District, as you will see later in the agenda, also applied for and was awarded the Classified to Credential grant through the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. The district will receive $240,000 from the CTC, which we will then award to our participating classified staff who are pursuing their college degree and teaching credential. Each participating employee will receive $4,800 annually to be used for tuition, books, and other education-related fees. And we have worked with our SEPA program to strengthen our onboarding process for those new certificated staff members who do not qualify for our PAR program. The Hart District PAR program, as you know, is not just a baseline program offered for every district. This is a top-notch program offered by the Hart District to support educators new to the profession. However, we do have a number of new certificated hires each year who come to us with enough experience so they do not qualify to be in the PAR program. And we have implemented a new step this year to help them acclimate to the Hart District. This fall, our SEPA director, Aaron Davis, and his team of consulting teachers reached out to more than 40 new certificated staff members who fell into this category to touch base and offer any needed support. This upgraded onboarding process is a very effective strategy for staff retention. Aaron and his team started with a survey to each person about what was going well and what their challenges were, and they followed that up with in-person meetings at the school sites to hear from folks firsthand and to see what other resources they needed. The final initiative in Focus Area 4 is in place to help develop our current educational leaders in the district. Educational services, student services, and human resources have all worked to train and develop our administrators in a number of areas throughout the year, and our cabinet members have quarterly meetings with individual principals to provide mentorship to them. Mr. Crawford and I have been working throughout the year with all of our administrators in the evaluation process, including sessions on what our contracts define in that area, the timelines we need to meet, as well as best practices in the crafting of evaluations. In fact, we have had multiple presentations at Administrative Council in which we have taken actual evaluation language written by a principal and have put that language up on the screen for all to see and critique. The displayed language was, of course, altered to provide anonymity for both the evaluator and the evaluatee, but we then took some time to analyze what had been written to see if it provided meaningful and clear feedback supported with quantitative and qualitative data. After all, in order to be meaningful for the employee, an evaluation should provide a clear message with specific evidence-based language addressing the expectations for the position. Similarly, as we progress into the time of year when we begin interviewing and hiring folks for the following year, we're going to provide a training to our administrators on the interview process. We're calling this our Interview Academy, and we're going to tie this in to the district strategic plan. When we created the strategic plan, the community identified 4 aspirational core values, and we are working on developing a bank of interview questions for administrators that will help give them insight into the candidate's experience with these core values. These will not be the only questions asked, of course, but administrators will be able to use a couple of these questions to help them as they decide who to add to their site teams and to continue the excellence there. And we also have a meeting later this spring with a neighboring school district to help explore the specifics and implementation of an administrator coaching and an aspiring administrator program. So we should have some more info on that for you later this year. In summary, those are just some of the steps we have taken with Focus Area 4, Financial and Human Resources, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Ralph and Colin, nice presentation. Well done. What questions do we have, board or comments? Linda, you have anything you wanted to? No, I'm good. Dr. Moore?
I just want to thank you because every board meeting as we get your updates, and Mr. Coleman, because I know that you framed this to work this way. Every meeting that we get your updates on the different focuses within our strategic plan, it's really helpful for me to be able to see your presentation, but then I look closely at our action plans and see the progress that we're making. And I know that the strategic plan is set for years out, but if you don't keep a focus on something, you don't do it. And by bringing the focus areas to each board meeting for us to see what is happening, we are holding ourselves accountable. And so I just wanted to share my appreciation of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sina?
I appreciate the numbers too. They make me crazy, but I appreciate the numbers. So, and I appreciate your time putting it together.
Annie, did you have any comments? Okay. Well, that was a really nice presentation, and like Dr. Moore said, we have these progress columns and action step columns, and that's really nice, and I really appreciate that myself, as I'm able to look at that and see where we are and gain insight into what we're doing. So really nicely done, nicely put together. This has been really good to have these discussions on the strategic plan and to continue further it along. It's like a budget, right, Ralph? It's kind of a living document to a certain extent in how we accomplish things and work through it. So nicely done. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Why do you say that? Going to be a 30-second item, wasn't it, Ralph? No, I'm just teasing.
This is a relatively quick item, Ms. Storley, and yeah, Mr. Jesse Landry has driven up from Orange County to speak with you this evening. Well, I know that Jesse can move through that pretty quickly.
Jesse's an expert public speaker. He'll get us through in 30 seconds. Ralph, anything else you wanted to introduce before Jesse gets here?
Consistent with Focus Area 4.2 of the District Strategic Plan, staff, working with our financial consultants, have identified potential savings for taxpayers and the district. Jesse Landry, Vice President of California Financial Services, one of our advisors, will provide a brief overview of the proposed transactions, calendar events, and potential savings. As the board may remember, we've done a number of these over the last 6 years since I came, and Ms. Lillibridge did one prior to my arrival, and we've saved the taxpayers on their property taxes millions of dollars, and we have another opportunity this evening.
Good evening, members of the board, district staff, members of the public. My name is Jesse Landry from California Financial Services, and we serve as the district's municipal advisor in taking a look at the district's bonds, and we help manage the process when there's
Jesse, pull the mic a little closer, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Let me just get this going. All right, so as the district's municipal advisor, one of the roles that we have is to monitor the district's outstanding public bonds and see if there's opportunities where we may be able to reduce interest costs on that debt. So what we see here is a listing of the district's outstanding bonds. We have those split up into general obligation bonds, CFD bonds, those are called special tax bonds, and then bonds of the school financing authority. So we have call dates listed there, callable, the amount that's callable on those call dates, and that's basically a date when we can redeem the bonds. That's where, when we issue bonds, typically we're locked out from prepaying for a number of years. So I've identified down at the bottom 3 opportunities that I want to talk about today. They're going to be bonds that are callable in 2023. And really this is going to be split up into 2 types of conversations. The first is going to be related to a planned prepayment for the 2018 lease revenue bonds. That's a little different than a refunding. A planned prepayment is where the district utilizes funds that it has on hand and it utilizes those to pay off existing bonds. The others will be refunding opportunities where we can refund the bonds, issue new bonds to replace the old bonds at a lower interest cost. This is similar to refinancing a mortgage. Whenever the interest rates are lower or we've moved further along, we have a shorter term left on that debt, we can sometimes achieve interest rate savings. So a quick recap of the 2018 lease revenue bonds. I just want to go back in history really quick and mention what happened. So back in 2017, the district staff had identified that there was going to be a shortfall of funding for its facilities funding program. We took a look at the timing of when those shortfalls would occur, and we came up with a determination that we would be short about $20 million in 2020 with the funds that the district had currently on hand and with the projected revenues that were going to occur. We took a look at a number of options and ultimately decided to issue lease revenue bonds to help fill that hole. We issued the lease revenue bonds back in October 18th, 2018 in the amount of $21 million. We had an internal repayment plan that was going to use restricted facilities dollars to repay the lease revenue bond payments. But at the time, what we had always planned on doing was using this as a bridge financing. This was going to be just a stopgap to get us through whenever we would receive state funds. So if the as the district knows, state funds come as a reimbursement for a program after you've already expended funds on a project. So Castaic High School was a big expenditure for the district, but we weren't expected to receive state funds until after the shortfall was going to occur. So our plan was always to issue the lease revenue bonds and then come back if state funds were received and be able to pay those bonds off. What I'll say is to date, over these last 5-6 years, we've been able to make all the payments with those restricted facilities dollars, and we've never encumbered on the general fund. But I do want to mention that these lease revenue bonds, they are backstopped by the general fund. So they are a debt of the general fund of the district. So now that we've received the funds from Castaic, the state reimbursement from the construction of Castaic High School, we have an opportunity to prepay the bonds as originally intended. Our initial call date begins, the window starts on May 1st, 2023. And if we repay the bonds on that date, the district will be able to save approximately $12.1 million in interest rate savings that it would otherwise be paying if the bonds remain outstanding. So I'm here today just as an informational item to update the board, remind us of the process that we underwent back in 2018 and say, you know, good news, the plan worked as we had set forth at the time, and we're ready to move forward with the last part of which is prepaying those bonds. What we would be planning on doing is coming back to the board on April 15th. The board would take action and the financing authority board would take action at that time to authorize district staff to execute the various notices, to move funds internally to be able to prepay those bonds. So maybe I'll pause there and I'll just see, I'm going to talk about a couple other opportunities, but I want to pause there and see if there's any questions about the intended repayment of the lease revenue bonds.
Any questions right now? Joe?
Is this the original, way back when we talked about issuing these, we were going to pay them back as soon as we got money from the state?
Yes.
Have we paid them back yet?
No, we had a blackout for 5 years when we issued the bonds in 2018 where we could not call the bonds. This is our first open window where we've been able to call those bonds. And what that has to do with is the shorter that we have a call date, the higher interest rate we pay. So we were trying to evaluate what's the right time. Typically it would be 10 years. We chose a 5-year, so we shortened the call date to give us this opportunity to be able to prepay.
So we have the money available to pay these, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I have a question. Dr. Moore, did you go back to page 2, down to No, yeah, my mic's on. Sorry. Page 2, down at the bottom, when we're talking about the May 1, 2023, you said that we're going to do this like a refi. So what was the interest rate at the time that we did it, and what is the interest rate of the new, if you will, refi? Sorry,
So-
I'm a realtor. I understand refi.
Yeah, so this prepayment won't be like a refinance. This will be like if you have your mortgage outstanding and you just paid the whole thing off all at once. If you had a lump sum of money and you wanted to pay off your whole mortgage and own that deed, that's what this scenario was like.
So we're saving the amount of money that would we be paying year to
In
year to
interest,
year in
yes.
interest?
Yeah, and on this slide here, you'll see some of the interest rates. We have different interest rates for every year, but they typically range from about 3.375% all the way up to 5% is the highest interest rate.
And so both of those, the lease revenue and the refunding, that's just going to save us the interest that we would be paying if we kept to our plan or the contract.
Exactly. What this is going to do is it's going to basically reinfuse the district's facilities funds. These are still restricted facilities funds dollars, but now they can be spent on projects rather than being spent on interest.
Great, thank you.
All right, Jesse, let's move on.
All right. All right. So the other two ones, I've set these up in accordance with my certainty level. So I'm very certain that we can refund or we can prepay the lease revenue bonds. These next items are going to be dependent on interest rate environment. So the next one is the CFD 2002-1 2013 special tax bonds. They were issued back in 2013. This CFD originally issued bonds back in 2003. So it was refunded already in 2013, and now we have another opportunity to refund. At this time, the bonds are already set to mature in 13 years, in 2036. So this is likely our last opportunity to refund these bonds and realize interest rate savings. What you'll see here is I have listed the orange circles are the current interest rates that we're paying right now today, and the red bars are the interest rates of what we might be able to expect in current market conditions. So the difference between those two is where we can realize interest rate savings. For the lease revenue bonds, we have an open window after May 1st, 2023. For this, we only have a 3-month window where we have an opportunity to refund those bonds. And then if interest rates aren't in a place where we can execute the refunding, then we'd have another 3-month window in 3 months from that time period. So we'll have opportunities to refund these. This is the first time that we've had this opportunity. Based on current market rates, it looks like it would be a good opportunity. And unfortunately, we can't just decide on June 1st when that window opens, oh, we're going to refund today. We have to take actions in advance of that to set up the process, get all the legal documents in order. The other potential refunding is the 2013 Joint School Facilities Authority pooled CFD refunding. There's 3 old CFDs that are involved in this authority, 1990, 99-1, and 2000-1. This is also the second time we have an opportunity to refund these bonds. So currently, this one is a little bit smaller. There's only $4.5 million outstanding that's eligible to be called. The savings are, I'm a little less certain that this one's going to be a viable opportunity, but I think what I'd like to do is get all the information set up, and we'll be in a position, and if it works out on June 1st to September 1st, we'll be working with district staff, and if there's an opportunity to save enough money, then we'll move forward with that. So again, this is just an informational item today. What our plan would be for both of these refundings is to come back, we'll set up all the documents with the finance and legal team, we'll set up a structure, we'll see if there's still interest rate savings, come back to the board in May with documents for your approval and for the financing authority to approve that would allow us to potentially refund those bonds sometime between June 1st and September 1st. Obviously, the district has no obligation to incur any costs associated with any of these refundings unless there's savings available and unless we execute the transaction. So very likely that if that last one that I mentioned I'm a little less certain about, we may pull the plug on that and the district would incur no costs associated with that process.
Jesse, thank you. Anything else, Ralph?
No, I want to thank you, Jesse. You and the team from Stiefel do a great job of monitoring this for us and making sure that the district is diligent in how we administer the funds that our community provides us.
Thank you, Mr. Pesci.
Thank you, Jesse. Drive safely. We appreciate all that you
members of the
do.
board.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on now to our action items. first is resolution number 22/23-35 regarding adult education. Dr. Vieira.
Yes, thank you. The Hart District and Golden Oak Adult School have a long history of offering quality programs to meet the ever-changing economic, workforce development, and lifelong learning needs of our diverse adult students. More specifically, adult education provides programming to students in the area of basic skills, high school equivalency, English as a second language, citizenship, family literacy, short-term career training, and more. Adult education is a pathway of opportunities that serves the needs of our community, and this resolution recognizes the efforts of all students, classified staff, teachers, counselors, and administrators in adult education, and it's recommended that the board approve resolution 22/23-35 in support of adult education.
I move to adopt resolution number 22/23-35 in support of adult education.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to approve resolution number 22/23-35. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Motion carries. Thank
And
you.
I also just want to say happy 75th anniversary to Golden Oak Adult School. And let us not forget it, it is celebrating 75 years, our second oldest school in the district. So hopefully everyone gets by and gets to visit some classes and celebrate the work that they've been doing to support our families. We talk about parent education opportunities. That happens through our adult education program.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Okay, we're going to go with item C, Ralph, before item B, if that's okay with you, because we have some folks here who have been here quite a while. So we're going to move to item C, resolution 22/23-37, request to California state legislators to oppose AB 659. And we do have two speakers. The first is Betsy Schubert. Second is Suverna Mystery.
Hi, everybody. I know it's been a really tough night, so the first thing I want to say is thank you very much for hearing us on February 1st, looking into the issue, and acting by putting the resolution onto the agenda. I appreciate all of your work very much, the conversations I've had with several of you, and I just wanted to express my support for Resolution 22/23-37. And given the presence of the resolution on the agenda, I hope that it will be executed and that you will take hard copies with you to Sacramento when you meet with legislators next week. So please know that we have the sincerest gratitude. I have my band of 4 that made it tonight through the long meeting, but we really do appreciate you, and there are great things happening in this district, and we really appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, we were short. Okay, Suverna.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm a parent of a soon-to-be 7th grader at the Hart District. After researching the district and school, speaking with Mr. Coolman and several board members, we made the decision to enroll our son with the Hart District. He is very excited to start junior high in the fall. I also have a 4th grader who will be attending the Hart District in just a few short years. I am here to urge the board to vote yes on the resolution opposing the vaccine mandate of AB 659. We are a real-life family that will be immediately impacted if this bill should pass. I believe a mandate as it relates to this particular vaccine is completely unnecessary, as HPV is not a communicable disease that is spread in classrooms. A mandate for this vaccine amounts to nothing more than a government overreach of authority and uses education to force broad medical decisions on all children when that decision should be made by parents in consultation with their doctor on a case-by-case basis. I hope this board unanimously passes this resolution, sending a strong message to the governor and the state legislator that as elected officials, you do not agree with the mandate and conveys the grave impact it would have on your district and its families. With that said, I did have a suggestion to the language of the resolution, which I have emailed to the board and Mr. Coleman. I see that part of that language was in the revised agenda. So basically, it would just direct Mr. Coleman to submit the resolution through the legislative portal, and all positions submitted through the portal are made into the legislative record and available for all senators and assembly members in summary format to assist in their voting of the bill. Accordingly, it's very important that the district's position is part of that record. I hope you vote to pass the resolution with my proposed additional language. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Coolman.
Yes, so now I present to the board a resolution urging the California State Legislature to oppose AB 659.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mr. Messina. And I will add that I have already mentioned to Mr. Kuhlman that we should be adding Senator Henry Stern, the California Legislation Portal, and the California State Assembly Health and Education Committees as recipients of this resolution.
It has been added to the
I have some comments too.
Dr. Moore.
Thank you. I've done a lot of research on this bill, and I want everyone to know that it has been put forth 5 times and failed 5 times. And I don't know what will happen this time, but in my research, there are only 3 states that have the HPV vaccine as a requirement: Virginia, Rhode Island, and Hawaii. And in each of those, they allow a personal exemption. And I have requested that if this goes for it, that it allow a personal exemption. The information that I've been given is that anything that is considered a mandate in California doesn't allow for that. So I guess that's why it's failed 5 times. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. All right, if there's no more comments, we have a motion by Mrs. Storley, a second by Mr. Messina to approve this resolution, which is number 22/23-37, to oppose AB 659. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight and waiting around. Okay, we'll move on now to item B. Ralph, our second interim financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Before I begin, I'd like to take a moment. CSEA recognized me as being instrumental in assuring that the salary schedules and pay is changed and retro checks are cut in April. And I think it's important that everybody be aware that that effort is led by our Director of Fiscal Services, Ms. Brittany Krasinski, who's in the back of the room this night. I'm going to embarrass her. Valerie Van Oss, Millie Gaines, our payroll supervisor, and our 2 payroll technicians, Veronica Reyes-Cruz and Annie Hamilton. They work long hours trying to get payroll done and processing these special items. I will tell you that a couple of them are work weekends to make sure this happens for the staff of this district. So thank you, Ms. Krasinski. Management. With that, I will get into our second interim report. California Education Code sections 42130 and 42131 require each school district to file interim financial reports twice a year. The first report covers the financial and budgetary status through October 31st. And the second interim report, which is before the board this evening, covers all transactions through January 31st, 2023. For context, these budget projections will include all recent settlements with our collective bargaining units as expenditures, as well as they have incorporated the January governor's budget proposal into the revenue side. Cost of living adjustments in the governor's proposed budget reduced in the 2 outlying years. However, it did increase for 22-23 and 23-24. And the changes you'll see in expenditures mostly are attributed to our negotiated salary increases, increased costs associated with special education, and employee contributions to employee retirement plans continue to rise. As you can see, there's a difference between where we were at first interim and second interim in the federal, in the state, and in the local revenues. Changes in local revenue are generally attributed to the receipt of strong workforce grant funds and donations. In the expenditure side, as you can see, under salaries and benefits, those costs have increased. And as I mentioned before, that is a result of increased costs associated with salary increases. A number of other cost increases you'll see on this in relations to services is at $4.9 million. we've had some significant cost increases in a number of programs and special ed, as I mentioned previously. General fund summary. As a reminder, increased expenditures, as I mentioned, SPED and staffing. But you'll see, as Mr. Gentian referred to, the budget is a living document, and at each one of those reports, we are taking a snapshot of where the district is and the information that comes to us via the state as budget proposals and different laws and budgets are modified at the Sacramento level. Our expenditures have increased significantly. Our revenues have, for this year, increased modestly as we continue to receive those local revenues. Budget assumptions, I mentioned that it's a living document, and so prior to January, we thought that 23-24 would be 5.38, 4.02, and 3.72. After the governor's budget proposal, next year is proposed at 8.13% COLA, but you'll note the two outlying years decreased by 0.48% and 0.41% respectively. So these numbers will change again in May when the governor releases his May revision, which will be the document that the legislature and the governor use to negotiate what the final budget will look like. Some assumptions that go into the budget projections. District staff receive annual salary increases based on the salary schedule. It's referred to step and column. Employer contributions to the employee retirement funds, as I previously mentioned, have changed. While CalSTRS, our retirement program for educational staff members, has remained constant, you'll note that CalPERS, which applies to all of our classified employees, non-educators, changed between the first interim and the second interim. As you can see, significant changes and cost increases associated with those projections coming out of the CalPERS board that they have recently adopted. So more cost to the district. Other budget considerations that are outside of our control: increase in property liability insurance premiums, national inflation, which affects our purchasing abilities, as well as I mentioned before, state budget and legislative initiatives. For second interim, we're projecting, these are the ending fund, or excuse me, the revenues and expenditures we're projecting over the next 5 years. And as you can see, which is not a surprise, you know, other than the beginning of this school year, we traditionally show a deficit in our projections, and those numbers continue to change with changes in the budget in Sacramento. So these numbers are consistent with our prior years, and actually some of the outlying years are projected lower than previous deficits we've had. What does that look like for us on a multi-year projection? Well, at adopted budget, we projected we had a 22% reserve. At first interim, that increased to 26% because the actual state budget came through and we received more funding this year. And at second interim, now that after we've applied all of the increased costs, that has dropped to a projection of a 17% fund balance reserve at the end of the year. Of importance to the board is what do the next 3 years look like when we go to budget adoption for 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26. And while at first interim we were projected to have a 23% reserve at the end of that 3-year multi-year period, will now be at approximately 4%, which we should remain as a positive certification for all 3 years. However, we'll have to see what happens with the governor's budget and how it affects the outlying years, positively or negatively. But at this time, we should be able to positively certify the budget this year. Next steps, the governor's revised 2023 state budget proposal, as I mentioned, will be made available mid-May. We'll have a presentation and public hearing on the budget proposal at the June 14th board meeting. And at the June 28th special board meeting, we will adopt the district budget. We'll then come back with unaudited actuals in the fall and September, reflecting where the school year actually ended up. And with that, if the board has any questions.
Made such a pretty presentation here at the end with all the pretty colors. So
I
someone
thought
should
we
have
needed a little color.
Yeah. But I don't have any questions, but I did want to point that out. It's very nice.
Creativity, Ralph, good work. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Peshek. We're going to do a positive certification because we have to predict 3 years. We don't know exactly what the May revise will share with us. I heard someone say when you go to Sacramento next week, but we're actually in Ledge Day this week with CSBA and have been meeting with our legislators yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And I've been advocating for the AMIM funding to stay, the arts, music, and instructional materials money. I know we can't predict, but I'm just wondering if that goes away, because you and I spoke briefly about that. How much of an impact is that on us?
So it's a great question, Dr. Moore. And when it came to this grant funding, we took a conservative approach because we didn't know what was going to happen this year. And when that money arrived a couple of months ago, we had an inkling that the governor was possibly going to go after it. So we have not allocated those funds to any specific expenditure at this time. So once we see what happens in May and June with the final budget adoption, we'll have a better idea of how those funds can be expended. And then district staff working with Dr. Vieira and Jan Dasher, we're working with our arts and music folk right now on the Prop 28 arts and music
That
funding.
side of it.
And that group will address this as well. But we're going to hold off on developing a plan until we really know how much money we'll have.
Okay, so if it's not all cut out, this percent goes up a little bit?
So this this money, Brittany, do you wanna-
Meaning the, like the reserve, would the reserve go up a
Well,
little?
it's grant funding and
Good evening, Board. So this particular grant wouldn't necessarily affect the percent of reserve because they are restricted funds. So we would budget the restricted funds specific to that and not have to draw on any of our reserves to manage those expenditures.
Because the AMIM money is discretionary.
It is discretionary, but the state allocates it in a specifically identified resource so that those are separate from the unrestricted general fund
Got it.
dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brittany.
Ms. Krasinski.
Anything else, Dr. Moore?
No, that was helpful.
Okay.
I got one.
Mr. Messina.
Ralph, I trust you on finances big time, and I like to watch your face when you're talking about this stuff. We're looking at a potential budget shortfall at the state level, correct? I mean, they're talking about.
that's correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any plans to potentially cut money from us? Are we looking at a fallback position in case they say, hey, you're going to end up with 20 million less than we were going to give you?
So far, the governor's approach has been to go after discretionary money to shore up the COLA and support the districts in the LCFF, local control funding formula revenues. So that's good. It's bad that he's going after this grant money for arts and music. But to answer your question, I think that the information that Dr. Moore through CSBA and other organizations and that I get through CASBO and our advisors will continue to develop and will continue to update the board. I would note that UCLA did release an economic projection this week that indicated there's really two paths that the district can go right now, or the state can go right now, and that's slow, steady kind of crawl along through the end of the year, and then possibly some negative effects, or we could really tunnel out here mid-year. And they're not, we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, student board member, any comment? Okay. All right, well, Brittany, thank you very much for all that you do, and your staff, and Ralph, your staff. You guys work long, hard hours. We really appreciate it. So this is an action item that we can take action on.
Move to approve
I
the
hope so.
second interim financial report.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the second interim financial report. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board
Um,
member? And the chair says aye.
Mr. Jensen, do we
Yeah.
need to include the part about adopting a positive certification in our motion? Okay.
Yes, let's include that as well. Yes.
Okay, Ralph's
Okay.
saying no, you're saying yes.
I like the words positive certification, so.
Okay, so I want to, we've already voted. So a new motion?
Yeah, let's make a new motion.
All right. So move to adopt a positive certification pursuant to Education Code Section 42131.
Second.
Okay, motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Motion carries. Excellent, thank you. Very good work, everyone. Okay, item D is our grant agreement for teacher credentialing program. Dr. Nielsen?
Thank you and good evening again. Last semester, the Hart District submitted a grant application to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing asking to participate in the Classified School Employee Teacher Credentialing Program grant. In January, we received word that our grant application had been approved by the CTC. The agreement you have before you tonight will allow us to provide $4,800 per year for 3 years to our classified employees who are pursuing their teaching credential and who qualify for participation in the program. Qualifying candidates will be able to attend either California State University Northridge or UMass Global as they work on finishing their bachelor's degree and teaching credential. In fact, just before we started the board meeting tonight, we had an informational meeting for our classified employees who are interested in applying for the program, and we had up to between 40 and 50 of our classified folks there as the district presented our information to them in the application process, and then Cal State University Northridge had some representatives to talk about their program, and UMass Global was also present to make a presentation as well. Staff recommends approval of this grant agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
That
Dr.
Mr.
Moore can
Messina?
have it.
Dr. Moore, okay. Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Dr. Moore to approve the Classified School Employee Teacher Credentialing Program Agreement to receive the grant funding. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Nielsen. Okay, we're moving right along here with item E, board member compensation increase. Mr. Kuhlman.
Yes, Education Code, Section 35120A, Part 4 states that for school districts in which the average daily attendance for the prior school year was 25,000 or less, the board member compensation may be in the amount not to exceed $400 per month. Ed Code states that a board may increase the compensation of individual board members on an annual basis beyond the limits specified above. The increase may be in an amount not to exceed 5% of the present monthly rate of compensation, with any increase effective on approval by the board. Board member compensation increases were approved in the Hart District not on an annual basis, but rather periodically, 2006, 2011, 2014, and 2019. William S. Hart Union High School District governing board members are currently compensated at $486.20 per month. A 5% increase at this time totals an additional $1,458.60 annually for the general fund. And we want to take note that our other bargaining units thankfully have been able to enjoy a 3% and a 4% and a 10% increase in the last 3 years. And so I present this to the board with my recommendation that the board would authorize a 5% increase this year.
Ourselves.
Correct.
To raise us from $486.20 to $510.51 per month. per
Before
board member.
taxes.
Before
taxes.
Well, of course. And then it gets, and it doesn't matter, so moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mr. Messina. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member?
All right, give it up.
And the chair says aye. And that again is to increase monthly compensation to $510.51 per month for the board. All right.
All in one place.
That motion carries. We'll now move on to item F. Thank you, Mr. Kuhlman. Mr. Peshek, you're up again. Home to school transportation plan.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Members of the board, I will try and be as brief as possible as I can on this one, but there's quite a bit of information I have for you. This evening, the board will be reviewing the draft student transportation plan prepared by staff and incorporating comments from staff, students, parents, the board, and community. This is a new process not only at the Hart District, but for all public school districts in California. We'll all be required to develop annual transportation plans each year. We approach this process from a perspective as how it may remove challenges some families may experience in ensuring students are able to get to school. This ties directly into Strategic Initiative 4.2 and Area 3.1. Tied to this new process is a new stream of transportation funding that the legislature approved as part of Assembly Bill 181. To access this funding, all California districts must, as I mentioned, adopt a new plan prior to April 1st, and they must follow the guidelines you'll see in 2A, 1, 2, 3, and 4 to prioritize plan services for, in our case, low-income students, describe how transportation will be accessible to students with disabilities and homeless youth, and how unduplicated students, which are defined as English learners, students approved for free and reduced meal benefits, or foster youth, will receive these benefits. And we're required to consult with staff, regional transit authorities, AQMD, parents, students. As you can see by this slide, the increase in funding will help the district to offset a $3.9 million contribution that the general fund makes to support SPED transportation on an annual basis, and will provide opportunities to expand our support for other at-promise students and their families, which I will go into soon. Under the careful administration of existing state and federal funds and a partnership with the Los Angeles County Department of Child and Family Services, Jan Dasher, our Director of Special Programs, is able to provide access to free transportation currently to over 4,000 foster youth, homeless students, low-income, and English learner students via free Metro Tap cards, which allows them to access Santa Clarita Valley Transit. We also provide transportation support for special ed students based on the severity of their disability as specified in their individual educational plans or IEPs. Now that we've gone through a little background on the why and what of the plan, I'll review some of the feedback that we collected from our online survey from parents, students, staff, and community members before we get to next steps. As you can see by this slide, we had over 365 participants in our survey, which we thought were great numbers. West Ranch, Saugus, Arroyo Seco, Hart, Canyon, and Canyon had the highest percentage of parents, students, and staff participating in the survey. As you can see by this graph, we had a very even distribution of grade levels represented in those classes. So we had parents and parents associated with all grade levels participating in the survey, which is good. We want to make sure that everybody is represented in our surveys. In this slide, you'll see that currently we have, excuse me, out of those 365 participants, 24 of those were current parents who are using district transportation, presumably special ed students. And of those, 3, instead of taking our bus, we actually provide a reimbursement to the parents to transport that student instead of us having to incur the charges for transportation. So we received 94 comments. Excuse me, I'll back up a little bit. So the next section 2 of the survey asked a leading question. What would you like the district to consider relative to these requirements when developing the student transportation plan? Specifically, question 1, when providing transportation services for pupils with disabilities or homeless youth. Some of the comments suggested were, please take into consideration how many students are on the bus. We only want these services for disabled students. Can we have an aide on every bus? And can we review the pickup and drop-off locations for convenience for those parents? 50 of those responded directly that they directly supported with a yes or in a positive affirmation services for these students. 13 responses indicated a desire to expand students to all students. Question 2, when we're providing access to free home school transportation for unduplicated pupils per the requirements of the plan, we received 264 comments. Continue to coordinate with the City of Santa Clarita to provide more city routes. Explore bilingual drivers. And survey homeless families so that you get directly from them what are their actual needs prior to just developing a plan. Of note, we had 164 responses that indicated that they support transportation for these unduplicated students. 27 responses indicated that they didn't believe these students needed any help. And 30 responded that they wouldn't support these benefits for unduplicated students unless the district gave it to all students. So next steps and process. We've completed a public survey. We're bringing the plan before the board this evening for consideration and adoption. And then we will implement the plan for the 23-24 school year, and then repeat this process again in early 2024 to develop a new plan for the 24-25 school year. Some of the items that we'll be exploring. My goodness, I think I skipped a slide here. So I will just make note that the next stop is staff will begin exploring the capacity needs for students identified in this plan. We'll coordinate with student services, transportation, and school sites to clarify needs. We'll continue our discussions with Santa Clarita Valley Transit about the sufficiency and capacity of the current routes and possibilities for expanded routes. And the limited scope of, we will do limited targeted polling of parents and students to develop plans for those subgroups. And we'll identify need of additional fixed assets, buses and support buses. I would note that as part of that, we are proposing a pilot next year. We've identified a bus and we've identified needs at Golden Valley. Transportation is significantly a challenge for that community, and we're proposing a pilot program next year. We already have a bus, we just need to hire a driver, and then we'll go about the process of evaluating what should that route look like, and these steps that I've just talked about will be part of that process, working with Mr. Frias and his team to develop what do we really need, and speaking with those parents so that we're getting the input we need. The goal is to have that and then communicate it out to that community, and we'll see how that rolls out next year, and we'll report back to the board on that. And with that, what I would note is the board did receive the Golden Valley comment I made this evening. You all have a copy of the revised plan that includes that Golden Valley pilot on it, and that would be what we would ask the board to adopt this evening prior to the April 1st deadline for
You send it to us in a Friday memo as an update?
I can certainly, you betcha.
I'm going to make a motion to adopt the student transportation plan as presented. Because if we don't do that tonight, we'll miss the April 1st.
Yeah, no, we definitely need to do it tonight, yeah.
Second.
Okay, motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the home to school transportation plan for the 2023-2024 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Okay.
Pretty graphics, by the way.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, Mr. Peshek, so very much.
That's an important one.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support and comments. It was a interesting process, and I'm looking forward to next year.
All right, we're going to move on to Resolution 22/23-36. This is, I refer to this as the Volkswagen resolution.
So-
Volkswagen buses.
So as the community and the board may remember, Volkswagen got their hands slapped a few years ago because the software on their vehicles wasn't exactly accurate in how it was recording vehicle fuel efficiency. And as part of that settlement, they established a fund, and that fund helps local agencies and school districts to replace buses and to replace vehicles in their fleet. And this resolution authorizes staff to begin the process of starting to fill out those applications. They will not even accept an application from us unless the board says, yes, Ralph, you and your team have permission to seek funding from this grant. It's one of the quirks of this funded program.
Have the board.
Move to approve resolution number 22/23-36 to submit the grant request and participate in the Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust.
Second? Joe, okay. Motion has been made by Dr. Moore with a second by Mr. Messina to approve resolution number 22/23-36 as stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on now to wrap up our action items with some legislative and facilities district matters. So Ralph, let's take it away.
Mr. Jensen, I believe you.
To open a thing here.
I'm sorry. It's getting lost in all my other pages here.
It's been a long evening. Thank you, sir.
You're absolutely right. Okay. This is now the time and the place designated for the public hearings on the proposed establishment of CFD number 2023-1, the proposed rate and method of apportionment of special tax, and the incurring of bond indebtedness by CFD number 2023-1. I declare the public hearings now open. Will staff please provide a presentation regarding proposed CFD number 2023-1?
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Tonight, the governing board will take various actions for the formation of the proposed CFD number 2023-1. The board will conduct public hearings to receive comments in favor or in protest of formation. After the public hearings, the board will consider resolutions establishing the CFD and conduct a combined special tax and bond election of the proposed Community Facilities District, or CFD. Once the election results are counted and canvassed, the board will conduct the first reading of the proposed ordinance relating to CFD number 2023-1. CFD number 2023-1 will provide funding for the school facilities as set forth in a mitigation agreement between the district and the owner of these properties. California Financial Services has prepared and submitted the CFD report for proposed CFD number 2023-1. Staff and legal counsel would have been pleased to answer any question, staff and our advisor from California Financial Services are available to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Ralph, has staff confirmed that all notices, filings, and publications have been completed?
All notices, filings, and publications for these public hearings have been completed and are on file at the district office.
Have any written protests been received from any person as to these proceedings, the special tax or proposed bonded indebtedness under CFD number 2023-1?
No written protests have been received.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of CFD number 2023-1 or the proposed rate and method of apportionment of special taxes or the proposed bonded indebtedness of CFD number 2023-1? If so, please come forward to provide your comments and identify if you are an owner of property or a registered voter within the proposed CFD. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak against or protest generally against the establishment of CFD number 2323-1, the extent of CFD number 2023-1, the types of public facilities to be financed, the rate and method of apportionment of special tax proposed, or the necessity to incur bonded indebtedness in an amount not to exceed $15 million? If you would like to speak against these items, please identify if you are an owner of property or a registered voter within the proposed CFD number 2023-1. Thank you, Diane. If there are no more comments, I will declare the public hearings closed. The public hearings are now closed. Has staff, Ralph, determined whether there is a majority protest as to the establishment of proposed CFD number 2023-1, the furnishing of the specified types of facilities or services, the levy of the special taxes, the necessity to incur bonded indebtedness or other related matters?
A majority protest does not exist.
Okay, thank you. Resolution of the Governing Board of the William S. Hart Union High School District. Okay. So now we're at the point where we can adopt resolution number 22/23-24. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mr. Messina to approve resolution number 22/23-34. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Okay, one down. Now we're going to move on. The board will now proceed with its agenda, acting as the legislative body of CFD number 2023-1. Danny, yes, we do on occasion get to act as a legislative body, and you're part of it. So this is what we're going to do right now. Agenda item number X-A on our agenda tonight, consideration and adoption of resolution number LB 22/23-8. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Mrs. Storley with a second by Dr. Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Pursuant to resolution numbers 22/23-34 and LB 22/23-8, the Assistant Superintendent Business Services is the election official for the described combined tax and bond elections of Community Facilities District number 2023-1 of the William S. Hart Union High School District. Mr. Peshek, have you received the waivers from the landowners that are necessary to conduct the combined special tax and bond elections within CFD number 2023-1 at this time?
We have received the written waivers from the landowners within CFD number 2023-1, permitting the election to be held at this time, and the waivers were duly approved and signed.
Does the Assistant Superintendent Business Services, acting as the election official, concur in the request to hold the election less than 125 days after adoption of the resolution of formation for CFD number 2023-1?
Yes.
Agenda item number XB, special tax and bond election, 10B, conduct special tax and bond election and receive results for election for CFD number 2023-1. Has the election official received the ballots from the qualified voters within CFD number 2023-1? If so, please declare the results of the election.
Members of the board, the special election called for CFD number 2023-1 on the combined special tax and bond election has been conducted. The results of the election are as follows. I received 2 ballots with 2 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed. Based on the votes of the ballot, Proposition 2023-1A and Proposition 2023-1B have passed. I will prepare a certification of the election results. The certification of election results will be attached to resolution number LB 22/23-9, which is presented for your consideration.
Question.
Yes.
I'm looking at the resolution for it. Is 2 votes typical?
In the context of a CFD formation, we're working with land developers, and in this case, there are 2 interested parties who jointly own that property for future development.
We're not
So that's
talking
why
about
we have 2
homeowners.
votes.
We're
No, this
talking
is
about
all based on the developer, right?
That's correct.
He's
This
saying
is, this is
pieces
development.
of land.
Okay.
And the people that own the land have said, yes, we'd like this
That's correct.
tax to be
I don't know if they
taxed
said
on.
we'd like. I
Well,
think they
they
said
said,
we okay with
yes, taxes. That's what they said. I heard them.
So is Exhibit A the actual election results? It's nothing here. I didn't see it, so when you said 2, it
No,
surprised me.
I have that, and it will be
Okay.
attached after the board meeting and posted on the district website.
Okay, so move to approve resolution LB 22/23-9.
Second.
By Dr. Moore, second by Mr. Messina, to approve resolution number LB 22/23-9. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. That motion carries. And now, and that was 10C, or I'm sorry, 10, yes, that was 10C. So now we move on to 10D.
Hold on. I'm sorry. We just did 9. Now we do 10. Oh, no, I see. We did 9. Okay. Sorry.
So now we're doing 10D, which is ordinance of Community Facilities District number 2023-1, authorizing the levy of a special tax within Community Facilities District number 2023-1. We can do this because we've just done LB 22-23-9. So do I have a motion to present the first reading of
Actually, Mr. Jensen, I believe at the bottom of page 7 is where you should pick up right now.
thought I just did that.
I thought we did too. He did.
I'll do it
Sorry,
again.
sir.
Agenda item number 10D, first reading of the ordinance number LB 22-23-1, entitled Ordinance of Community Facilities District number 2023-1 of the William S. Hart Union High School District, authorizing the levy of a special tax within Community Facilities District number 2023-1. Now that that's read, do I have a motion to present the first reading of ordinance number LB 22-23-1 by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Dr. Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
The title of the ordinance number LB 22/23-1 reads as follows. Ordinance of Community Facilities District number 2023-1 of the William S. Hart Union High School District authorizing the levy of a special tax within the Community Facilities District number 2023-1.
Thank you. And throw my vote in there too on that. I didn't quite get a chance to say that after the student board member. Thank you, clerk. Copies of the proposed ordinance are available at the district's business office for public inspection. Members of the public may also request a copy of the proposed ordinance by emailing business@hartdistrict.org. It is expected that the ordinance will be formally adopted at the board's next regular meeting to be held on April 19th, 2023.
Just clarification, Mr. Jensen, we passed the motion, but we didn't pass the motion to forego the reading of the entire ordinance. I would like us to do that.
I think we did.
Okay, so we just, okay.
By title only, yes. Good question, though.
Title only. Yeah.
Okay, so I believe that we are finished acting as a legislative body. Danny, that was exciting, wasn't it? You can go home and tell your friends that
You passed
were part of it.
legislation.
And to put that on your resume.
I passed
college.
legislation taxing the people of
So
Santa
we're
Cruz.
going to move on to the consent calendar. Thank you, board members, for working through all that. And Ralph, thank you. It can be a little bit nitty-gritty. We do have a speaker card for the consent calendar. Diane Zimmerman.
All right, I'm speaking to World History, Culture, and Geographic, The Modern World by Jackson Spiel, whatever his name is. You're thinking of putting it into the curriculum for the 10th grade in the 23-24. I hope you put this on hold tonight for sure if you haven't looked into the book as I have. In my opinion, this would be a no for high school curriculum. The students need to learn about the United States of America history. We need to teach the basics until all the students are fluent in them. Any classes such as this should be offered after graduation from high school. Students need to have the skills to understand this kind of book. The books that you have been quietly inserting into government school curriculum need to be available to all, which I understand now are available to all the parents to approve or disapprove. I don't know if they are available for them to approve or disapprove. I spent a little time today researching this book. It appears to be geared towards college-level students. Many of the comments I read were by some high school students who spoke of the difficulty in understanding the book. Some college students said it was great, but difficult in many areas to understand terms, etc. One college student claimed that he or she has HDHD, is that how it's said? Disorder, and that he wanted to throw it against a wall. I am assuming that each one of you board members and Mr. Coleman will be reading this book before approving it for any but an elective that can be maybe taken in high school, possibly for students that need more of a challenge than they are getting, with parental approval, of course. When I went to topic more like this, you know how you can go and they can say, do you like this? You will have more. I was really shocked and even more firm in you putting this on hold. I don't have time. I want to say that I'm astonished that none of you stood up for Joe Messina tonight, because he has always stood up for you, whether he's agreed with you or not when you're being abused. He has always spoken
Diane,
for you.
your time is up.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
really,
Am I standing up?
can't believe you didn't speak up for him.
Okay, thank you, Diane. All right. Unless a board member has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar, the governing board approves all the items at one time. Do we have any items to remove or do anything separate with?
Move we approve the consent calendar.
Motion by Mr. Messina, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. Okay, we're down to items for future consideration by the board. We do have a speaker card for this, Santa Rivera.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Like the books.
So I just wanted to mention a couple of things for future consideration. Mr. Jensen, maybe you can treat the timing the same with everybody. It was a little biased today. You let people wrap it up on some occasions, and on others you didn't, and it was very obvious. And then as well as when we have people here, maybe we should, for future consideration, consider the fact that people should not be trying to intimidate people, and there was a lot of that going on. And I think that that should be considered in the future when there's an extreme and very emotional, provoking meeting that you guys know you're going to have. I was surprised that the sheriff was here by himself. You guys usually like to call 3 or 4 other ones. Maybe you guys should do that in the future as well when there's going to be something this intense, because there was a lot of intimidation being passed on. And from over here, I'm sure you guys could see it, but nobody said anything. And I think that it was very unfair the way the timing was treated. I understand you need to cut it off, or if you're going to give somebody a little extra time to wrap it up, then everybody should get that same treatment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, board, items for future consideration. Do we have any, Linda Storley? No. Dr. Moore?
I have a few.
Please go for it.
Okay. I have a few that I can't wait on. I've been talking about a list that I've had, and you know, I think everybody knows we can't respond to public comment, and a lot of things that were shared during public comment are things that we can work on together as a community, as a school district. And I want to propose for future consideration that we plan a way to have community conversations so that people can have time to talk. It's very difficult during public comment because there's no opportunity to have a conversation. So I would like us to have a community conversation specifically at this point on race and reconciliation, similar to what we did with the safety community conversations. I would also like to ask that at future meetings, similar to the way that we have the Williams report every quarter, that we provide data on our hate incidents every quarter at the board meetings as well. And the training and education and the teachable moments that were mentioned, it's all true. We all can learn more and do better. And I would like us as a board to be the models for how to start those training and professional development opportunities and look at some board training to help us understand our own, you know, understand everything that is going on as it relates to the hurt and anger in our community. I know CSBA has some trainings around that. I also want to recognize that what I hear from some of our team members and staff members is that it would be also great to have some supports from the bottom up. I don't know if that's a future board item, but I'd like it to be a future conversation that we look at to do some type of professional development at a district-wide level for classified teachers, admin, some supports there. Rapid response is what I'm calling it and thinking about. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Mr. Messina, do you have anything? Danny?
I just wanted to say something. There are certain classes by the state of California and the United States, I'm sure most of them, that have world history classes that are mandated, and U.S. history, government, and econ. So we can't just not have a world history class.
Okay, thank you very much. It is now 10:46.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr.
Third.
Messina, second by Mrs. Storley. It's 10:46. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
And I as well. Thank you.